Morning. I wish to welcome everyone and officially declare the meeting open at 9 a.m. Could I remind everybody that Council's ordinary meetings are open to the public and are also live streamed to provide access to all community members. Attendees in the gallery may be recorded, and this video and audio of the meeting will be available to the public on Council's website. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we stand, the Gulnay people, and acknowledge my respect for their current and emerging elders and those in the dreaming, and thank them for their contributions that they've made in building our community. I would like to welcome Mr. Pastor Joshua Symes from the Innisfail Baptist Church to conduct the opening prayer. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll stay seated because the microphone's here, and I wouldn't mind taking a moment just for a couple of reflections. Over the last 6, 7 weeks, I've actually been in about 6 different countries, and one of my observations was most people are quite religious, and most people are looking for redemption, looking for some sort of restitution or forgiveness, and it sort of made me ponder why much of the West hates itself. And I sort of wonder why. Maybe it's because we've forgotten the redemption that is available to us. In the scriptures in Ephesians 1:7, it says, "In him," that is Christ, "we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of his grace," God's grace. That is, redemption is available. I stood at a place in a temple where just a couple of weeks ago there was a ox sacrificed. They still do animal sacrifices, but in the scriptures, our sacrifice has been paid for through Jesus. So one of the characteristics of God is redemption, and to be a follower of Jesus is to be like him, to seek redemption. And I'm sure in all parts of our society, there are areas which need redemption and restoration. So as councillors, I'm sure there's relationships you have with one another or staff members or community members that have somehow fallen apart, broken, and need redeeming. There's parts of our society that need redemption and restoration. There's roads, networks, and all sorts of things that need systems that need redemption. So my prayer for you guys today will be that in those areas that are broken, that need restoring, that you might find ways to redeem them and restore them. So let's pray. Father God, I thank you for our council and the members who contribute their time in service to our community in trying to better it. Father God, I pray that you might give them wisdom and insight to the areas that are broken, may it be in their relationships or systems in council or areas in our society or infrastructure that are broken, that need restoration and redeeming. Give them the wisdom to decide on the things that need to be discarded and put aside, and the things that can be redeemed and restored. And so, Father, in their discussions, in their relationships with one another and the community, I pray, Lord, that they might seek to be at peace with one another as far as it depends on them. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. God bless.
You too.
That's you all.
Apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Renee McLeod. Are there any other apologies? Oh yeah, Councillor Littlemore's still on leave, so he's also an apology. We move on to the declaration of prescribed conflicts of interest or declarable conflicts of interest. I now invite those to present to use this opportunity to make public any prescribed conflicts of interest or declarable conflicts of interest in respect of the items in the agenda, and councillors should use this opportunity to disclose and or comment on other councillors and or staff interests in accordance with the Act and regulations. Yes, Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, item 4.2, the Community Grants and Support Round, Community Infrastructure. There's probably a perception of a prescribed conflict of interest. I'm an ordinary member of the RSL Innisfail. I'm not an executive member on the committee, but Innisfail RSL does have an application in for the community infrastructure grants that I was not a part of. So,
Okay.
Through the chair, if Councillor Baines was on the executive, he may have a declarable conflict of interest, but if he's not on the executive there's no conflict of interest to consider.
So you're seeking to stay in the room, councillor?
thank you.
Yep, sure. All in favour of?
Through the chair,
Yep.
there's no declarable
No
conflict
declarable?
of interest,
Okay,
so there's
all right.
no need to
Okay.
move a resolution for Councillor Baines to stay in the room for that matter.
Are there any other? Oh, councillor Jessup.
Yes, good morning, Madam Mayor. Also fellow councillors, I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 5.1, growing the Cassowary Coast Shopfront Improvement Program. I own part of the Smith building, which is situated at 47 Bryant Street in Tully. And whilst we are only considering the guidelines today, I'm eligible and would consider applying through the Shopfront Improvement Program. Should council adopt the guidelines today, I intend to leave the room and take no part in this decision.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, Madam Chair. So myself, I have in item 4.2, it's just a perception there. I'm a member of the Innisfail Game Fishing Club. I'm not on the executive committee or anything. I was actually on the panel for the community grants, and I disclosed that at the panel meeting. I will be staying in the room for this item today. As I said, I'm not a executive board member, and I know the Innisfail Game Fishing Club has got a grant application in for this that was approved by the panel.
Okay.
And further to that, item 5.1, the growing the Cassowary Coast Shopfront Improvement Program. There's a potential there for declarable conflict of interest that I believe I don't have. Reason being, the property that I'm the manager of, Backpacker Shack in Innisfail, it's within the guidelines of the growing the Cassowary Coast Shopfront Improvement Program. There's a potential there that that property could put in for an application if it deemed necessary. But I don't have a beneficial gain. I'm only the manager, and I don't see myself as, I don't pay any maintenance or anything like that for the building, so I'm literally just an employee of that business. So I'd be asking if I could stay in the room for that item.
Through the chair, just for clarity and to participate in the vote.
Yeah, it's just yet to participate in the vote. Yes, correct.
Councillor Chewy.
Thank you. Yes, following on from Councillor Pervin, item 5.1, growing the Cassowary Coast Shopfront Improvement. My husband works at Muirs, which is on the highway. Once again, they potentially could apply for some improvement to their building. I again will gain no personal financial gain or anything like that from it. So I just like that noted, but I would ask that I stay in the room and take part in the discussion. Thank you.
No problem. I don't have a problem with that. I just wanted to go back to Councillor Pervin. You wouldn't be the applicant in the case should they apply?
No, that's correct. I wouldn't be the applicant in that case. No, like I said, I'm just an employee. No general maintenance, no upkeep of the building. Nothing like that is a financial benefit to myself.
Okay.
Through the chair, we'll just need to, that declarable conflict of interest, just the eligible councillors would need to vote to make a resolution for the councillors to stay in the room and participate in that vote. So the two eligible councillors, yourself and Councillor Baines, that haven't declared a conflict, and we'll probably need a resolution for each of the councillors. So Councillor Pervin.
So do we resolve to keep Councillor Pervin in the room? Councillor Baines?
Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we'll
Vote.
vote on that. You and I. And also, do we resolve to keep Councillor Chewy in the room on the decision making?
Happy to second that.
Second that. Okay, thank you. All noted. Okay, we will move on. Item 1.1, minutes of the local government meeting. I now call for a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes of the local government meeting held 26th of September 2024 as true and correct. Moved by Councillor Pervin, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? Thank you, carried. We now move on to business arising from the previous minutes. Anybody got any business arising?
Nothing.
I have. I'm just getting to the top of my page here. I just wanted to refer to the expressions of interest shown for the Economic Development Committee. I just wondered what the applications were like for that. Can anybody elaborate?
Through the chair, I might be out of my depth here. I understand we had 12 applications for that process, and that the team are currently going through those applications.
Okay, that's good. It's good to see that there's people are interested. All right, we will move on to (3.1) receipts of minutes. I will now call for a mover and a seconder to receive the unconfirmed minutes of the following meetings. The Special Audit Committee meeting held 9th of October 2024. Moved and seconded by Councillor Pervin. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Go to 4.1 Regional Arts Development Fund round, and Miss Sorbello will present. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Miss Sabella.
Morning. I'm here presenting the Regional Arts Development Fund Round 1, 2024-25. So Round 1 of the RADF program opened for applications on the 30th of August 2024 and closed on the 29th of September for local arts projects requesting a maximum of $5,000. Applications are submitted online through Council's Smarty Grants portal and are subject to assessment stages. Table 1 of your report. There were 2 applications. Application from Chiara Samperi for a project Shedding Layers. Grant requested $4,152. Grant recommended $3,507 for the project, delivering 3 full-day creative art workshops for disadvantaged women of all ages, cultures and languages, and creating new networks and expressions of art. The second applicant was Tully Arts and Cultural Precinct, auspiced by the Tully Support Centre for their project Tully Sugar Week Arts Project. Grant requested of $5,000 and a grant recommended of $5,000 for the project. Tuition to guide local artists to uncover, illustrate and share historical social elements of the local sugar industry for display at the Tully Sugar Week in May 2025.
Councillor Chewy's moved that. Councillor Pervin seconded it. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, Miss Sorbello. Almost cost me a Coke. This grant round, has this grant round been undersubscribed?
Yes, it has. Normally, we normally have about 4 or 5 applications each round, but this round is undersubscribed. So we're hoping to boost the next round, which will open probably in February next year.
February next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't take that any further because I think the Mayor may have some stuff to add.
That was exactly the question I was going to ask. So how do we encourage people to apply for that particular round of funding? Because people probably don't understand what it's about. How do we make them more, I guess, knowledgeable or aware of what it's actually about and what it covers?
I think for the next round, I'll do some more community engagement and meeting local arts and community groups to see what projects might be on offer.
All right, very good.
Through the chair, I was just going to add to that. I mean, the RADF is a long-standing program. It's been around for many years now. But I think also Council's generous community grants. We're finding that some of the applicants that would have tried to navigate through a RADF application, which maybe didn't necessarily align to it as well as some of the current applications, are now going over to Council's community grants.
Councillor Chewy.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bello. I think these are the two applications, though, are great, and I look forward to seeing Ms. Samperi's display, hopefully. And I just think maybe engaging with artists that have been successful and asking, maybe getting them to talk about what RADF meant for them and how they, you know, progressed, illustrated their work and maybe raised their profile in community, and also reaching out to our high schools, because it would be great to get some youth. We know we have some fantastic artists. I see them, dare I say it, on Facebook, and so there might be some youth projects through our YAC as well that might be eligible. But I think if we could talk to some artists that have been successful, that might reinvigorate.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for that. But well done. It's too great, and the sugar one is great too, because we still need to keep the Tully 100 celebration alive, and so this will carry that on for Sugar Week as well. So very exciting to see them come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, and noted.
And there are some very talented people. I went to the high school the other day to their show of their talents, and it was absolutely mind-boggling what was there. It was really great. So good job. So we have a mover and a seconder. All in favour of that? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to 4.2, community grants and support, round 1. Ms. Hack will present. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Hack.
Good morning, here to present the round 1 of the community infrastructure grants. Round 1 of the community infrastructure program stream opened for applications on the 1st of September 2024 and closed on the 30th of September. 23 applications were deemed eligible to move forward to the final stage of assessment. A discrete assessment panel was convened, and the recommendations of the panel are put before Council today for consideration. Would you like me to go through the list?
Do we need to go through the list, guys? It's an extent. Won't hurt.
Yes, please.
Sorry. Yes, I think
Yes?
it's a good thing, yes.
No problem at all. Okay. Recommendation that Council endorse the following recommendations of the assessment panel for round 1 of the 2024-2025 community grants for the community infrastructure funding stream, being in the minor stream, applicant Cardwell and District Pickleball Club, grant funding recommended $4,220. Sorry. Innisfell Game Fishing Club, grant funding recommended $2,125. The Australian Volunteer Coast Guard Association of the Marulian Branch, grant funding recommended $3,426. Mission Beach Community Arts Centre, grant funding recommended $4,400. Applicant Duru Warrenborough Aboriginal Corporation RNTBC, grant funding recommended $3,536. Applicant Cassowary Coast Cricket Association, grant funding recommended $3,927. And in the major project stream, Eddie Bay Surf Life Saving Club, grant funding recommended $10,850. Applicant Tully Tennis and Social Club Incorporated, grant funding recommended $30,000. Applicant Tully Country Club, grant funding recommended $24,189. Applicant Mission Beach Tennis Club Incorporated, grant funding recommended $30,000. Applicant Returned and Service League Australia, Queensland Branch, Innisfail Sub-Branch, grant funding recommended $8,327. And we acknowledge and thank all applicants for their submission and delegates authority to the CEO in accordance with the Local Government Act and finalise any and all matters pertaining to the Community Infrastructure Grant 24-25 agreements.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Councillor Chewy?
Through the chair, it's amazing, some of those applications and that amount of money gone through. So well done. I believe this round was in fact opposite to the RADF and was oversubscribed.
Yeah.
So just clarifying, if you could, Ms. Hack, the people the groups that didn't make it, they will receive notification as to why, and are they eligible to reapply? And also, there's obviously got to be some sort of timeline about this work going on and reporting. People ring me up and they hate the word acquittal, but there is a process, isn't there, that they must go through. Can you just sort of briefly? I think there's 3 points I've raised there. Beg your pardon. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you. So absolutely, there's 23 eligible applications that went through and 11 projects were recommended today by the panel. Those that were unsuccessful in this round can absolutely apply for next year's, pending budget considerations, next year's round if it's up again. And they will receive within the next sort of 7 to 14 days a letter from one of the council officers just giving them support in their application if they were unsuccessful. So, and the third question? Oh, acquittal/reports. When applying, they outline their project details and we align their report or acquittal. At the very latest, it'll be by the end of financial year that we're sitting in right now. Yeah. And we will absolutely assist them if they have issues with the portal or with their reporting. Yep.
Okay, yeah, moved by Councillor Chewy. Councillor Pervin?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yes, as I said previously, I was on the panel for this, and there were some great applications put in there. It was a very tough job, and the ones that were unsuccessful, some of them were just as simple as the paperwork wasn't fully completed. So, I mean, going into the next round, it may just be something easy that the staff are prepared to work in with those applicants just to make sure it gets them over the line next time. But like I said, just the intake for this round alone was massive, very good, and yeah, great to see the community getting in there, trying to get some support from the local council as well. And I'd like to second it.
Do you want to second that? Thank you. Councillor Baines?
So we're discussing the oncoming rounds. So the plan is, are we thinking of applications biannually, like twice a year, or what sort of a program are we going to roll with this in the future?
Through the chair, so this round was oversubscribed, so the amount that's budgeted in this particular grant round has been used up. Expended, that's correct. Yep. It would be up to next year's
next year's budget deliberations and then in the following year. Okay.
That's correct.
Yep.
25-26 will be the next round.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you.
And further to that, so if you were successful in an application this round and they applied in the next round, what happens there? Are they non-eligible?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as per the current guidelines, priority is given to those applicants who have not been successful previously.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We move on. Sorry, Councillor Chewy.
We probably don't need it now if you want. I do, unless you want me.
Yeah, I think we've got it sorted. So, economic activation and tourism 5.1, growing the Cassowary Coast shopfront improvement program. Welcome, Mr. Horton.
It's for the chair. We'll just suggest that we'll just leave the room.
Oh. Thank you.
And then there was 3.
And then there was 3. That's
plus
right.
1. 4, yeah, plus
Don't
1.
forget, I'm over here. I'm just on the wrong side of the table.
Thanks, Council. Good morning. 5.1, we got the Growing the Cassowary Coast Shopfront Improvement Program. Council be fully aware we brought this program to Council on the 27th of June 2024 with a report to endorse. This report is really to amend that policy, as well as provide the policy guidelines and resources around that. So there's frequently asked questions in the checklist and so forth for applicants that wish to do this program. So with the program is an offering great opportunities to revitalise the shop fronts and commercial building facades. Remember in Council we had the facades improvement scheme which run over 2 financial years back in 19 and 21, I think, 19, 20, 21. Off the top of my head. So the program is available for both tenants with the owner's permission and commercial property owners, providing dollar for dollar matching grants up to $5,000. Part of this policy and part of the recommendation is to also incorporate the Renew project, which is a program with the Small Business Commission, which is they've got an agreement with Renew Australia, partnership which council's part of. If anyone out there in the public, customers alike, haven't seen the Renew program, please. You're all right.
Thank you.
No problems, council. With the Renew program, please jump online and have a look at it. We've got our web page there on councils. You can just put it in, Renew Cassowary Coast. It'll come up with everything in there, the guidelines and so forth, and the officers are quite able to come and speak about that program as well. So, council, we have a funding agreement up, funding allocated through funding for $100,000 for this project. The 4 participants to apply for the $10,000 in funding under the Renew project will take up to $40,000. Please remember, it's up to $10,000. We'll work with those clients on what actual work they need to do in that program. There could be $5,000, could be $6,000, could be $10,000. So it's up to $10,000 with that program. It is highlighted in yellow, council, within the policy. So you can see that the page 2 of that policy has been included there. Applicants who have signed a lease agreement under the Renew Cassowary Coast program are eligible to apply for up to $10,000 in funding without a co-contribution requirement. This special provision is capped at 4 successful applicants, and even if you go onto our webpage, it outlines that clearly on that as well. Under the provisions are subject to the same application approval and acquittal process. So just on that process with the Renew and with the shopfront improvement program, if it goes through today and the recommendations for the amendment to that policy, I advise any commercial business owner tend to apply for the program. We're happy to work with them through that. We've got to do a funding agreement. We work with and see who their trade persons are that they've got, and we're chasing the local tradies to be working on this program. So you can see in the background, council, it's around those improvements in industrial cleaning, lighting, painting, signage, greenery, structural improvements, enhancement to the visual appeal of the street front from the street view. Please remember that's in our main frontage areas. That's also on the scenic route, so on our main tourist routes throughout the Cassowary Coast as well, which takes into a number of those small village areas. So you got Wangan, you got South Johnson, you've got Mina Creek, you got Silkwood, those types of areas. So it's just not the main street of Innisfail, but it does deal with Cardwell, Mission Beach, Tully, and the main street of Innisfail. Council, I understand that there is a number of different things going on the Cassowary Coast, and one of them is the Mission Beach Master Plan area, where we have works going on there at the current time. I advise that those shop owners or tenants there, please apply. If this goes through from council, please put in the application. We're happy to work with each person down there. Please remember, it is a 6-month agreement to do the works. It's been extended from 3 to 6, but the 6 months comes into play once we sign the agreement. So once we work through them, got the quotes, work through who their tradie are, understand what the work is that needs to be done, that agreement gets signed, we work through them. Sometimes there might be a circumstance that comes into play where they can't deal with it in the 6 months. We're happy to review that, come back to council and talk about that in the future on what we need to do. So those types of things are part of that as well. Council, I hope I've provided enough feedback on this program. We did do it in 27th of June 2024, so this is just, as I said, an amendment to that policy to include that Renew component, but I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Councillor Chewy.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Horton. It's a great initiative, and I hope it's well received. And thank you for bringing up the Mission Beach issue, because as we have discussed previously, that was something that I felt could be troublesome for some. But as we said, just apply and see what happens. And what I'm most happy to see is it covers accessibility for businesses as well, which we know is a really important part. That in whether it be for wheelchairs, walkers, prams, whatever. So people might like to consider that as part of their priority as for their upgrade anyway. But thank you have answered my questions, and I'm happy to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Baines?
Happy to second, but would reserve the right to ask a question if I
Yeah,
may.
sure.
So, Mr. Horton, when we've done these projects previously, I believe the return on council's investment was approximately $4 for every dollar we invested. Would that be pretty accurate, really?
Through the chair, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, one would hope that we can roll that out into this. It's because, again, it's not a significantly larger project than we've done previously. So, it's a great piece of work. And I'm not saying that we're not going to get 4 applications that'll roll into the budget in that piece, but if that isn't expended, is there opportunity for someone else to try and roll in, say 2 businesses only apply for 5,000? Is there scope there, or are we really trying to encourage people to?
Through the chair, well, the funding's for, this is not council out of operational budget, or whether this is $100,000 worth of funding that's been provided to council to expend through that program with an acquittal, I think, to 2028, I think, Mr. CEO. So we'll be working to expend that, and once we expend that 100,000, and we hope we get good take up of it. We've broadened, as we just said, with the access. It's really broadened what we're dealing with from the facade improvement scheme. The facade was really only around certain things with the building. We've really broadened that out to take into other accounts, around industrial cleaning and those types of things, and as you said, with access and so forth. So, look, the 4 renew programs, they might only take up a portion of that to start with, so then we'll understand what we've got in the facades component as well. So that might only take up a certain portion, which leaves us with enough in the facades to move that across.
Okay, that's the answer.
But, with the renew program, we're starting in Innisfail. Hopefully it's successful, and there we can activate some spaces, and then we can move out into the other components of our region, which is Mission Beach and Cardwell and Tully, and we're looking as part of the regional plan and our new planning scheme of what we do with the village areas and those small areas, and how do we support them moving forward. So hopefully being able to revive places like South Johnson and those little areas when we move forward. Councillor.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. All good. So does this replace the facade scheme, or is the facade scheme entangled in this? Is it all together in one now?
Through the chair, yes. This is what the policy is in the new program. The facades was a start. We did that. That was successful. We've looked at it and changed it up into what we need today, what we need for the region, and how we facilitate what we're chasing. So it's been amended to place those additional items in there and roll it out as that improvement.
Yeah, that's
program.
great. So the 50-50 contribution, that's so say they only need $2,000, then they put in the $2,000.
Through the chair, yes.
So it up to the 5,000. So 5,000 from us and 5,000 from them. That gives them a 10,000. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good offer on the table.
Through the chair, yeah. And look, hopefully, painting a building's not cheap.
No, nothing's cheap.
It'll go, they'll 5,000, but they might be expending 12 or 13. So,
Yeah.
But it's a good offering, 5 and 5, and hopefully we get some of these areas with the Art Deco buildings and so forth cleaned and painted, and get out what we've got previously, like the White Horse and those types of buildings in Innisfail, which look great when they're really, really well kept.
Yeah. Councillor Dewey.
Thank you. Just talking about tradies, and we value their work, obviously, but we do know that in the real world that there's a shortage. So will that be taken into consideration, that the applicant have done their paperwork, but their tradie can't start for a period of time? Obviously, that needs to be considered because we do have issues in that department. Thank you.
Through the chair, that'll be a one-on-one discussion with the applicant as we come through to sign that funding agreement. So we'll really sit down and work through that. They'll have those dates on when they can start and when they can't, and everything's dependent on some things around the weather too. So we understand that from the business we're in at the current time, and but it'll be around that one-on-one and really that discussion. But look, I just hope people get on board and really activate each of these centres which we've got, and on that tourist route that we have through the region.
And through the chair again, if I may, if they, I don't understand, you've said it's on the website and everything, but who is the contact person if people sometimes struggle with technology, they just want to ring somebody up, customer service, and then direct it to the right person, or what would be your advice?
Yeah,
Mr.
through
Horton?
the chair, I'd ring customer service and that'll come through, and customer request straight to the department. Look, our team's out and about in the public and talking with different groups and connections with different businesses. So, look, it's easy to get a hold of us. Yeah, just ring and we'll come through and we'll deal with it from there.
I think through the chair, I was just going to say, council's investing so heavily in upgrades to our CBDs in particular, Butler Street, Mission Beach, some of the work that's going on in the Innisfail CBD at the moment as well. So we certainly do encourage, and it's not just the property owners. If you're leasing a premise, getting the consent of the property owner to undertake some of these works. And as Mr. Horton's pointed out, there's 14 eligible improvement works, and it's much broader than that facade improvement scheme. And I think we'd certainly like businesses within the Cassowary Coast to think that you can have a successful business without an A-frame out on a footpath.
Yes.
Some of our current projects are looking to improve access and inclusion, and obviously A-frames on footpaths reduce access along those. So this is about the shop front and making those shop fronts bright and attractive. It's not just certainly not to fund A-frames that will go out on footpaths.
Yes, and I must say, I think there's Pedals and Beans has already gone one step ahead and has improved the access to their shop in Butler Street and Tully. So if anybody wants to know how to do it, go and have a look at what they've done, because it's really great. And I encourage any business owner out there to get on board if they want to make improvements to their shop front, because it really is a great opportunity. So we have a mover and a seconder. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Move on to 5.2. We'll just get our councillor back. This is our LGGSP. And over to you, Mr. Horton.
Thank you, Council. Madam Mayor. 5.2, we have the Port of Marulian Strategic Priority Development Area Planning Study Business Case. Council was successful with a partially funded agreement on the local government grants and subsidy program, LGGSP, which they awarded the 60% of the total project value in line with the project schedule agreement, which is attached to this report. Council is required to contribute the remaining 40% through direct financial contribution. While the initial funding application requested 100%, which was $250,000, Council was only awarded the 60%. So Council, in resolving to undertake the business case, which will enable the strategic planning study to move forward, which is around positioning of Port of Marulian and the vital economic hub. The outcomes of the study will inform future development initiatives, the work toward formalising strategic partnerships focused on unlocking new opportunities for trade, investment and regional economic resilience. Council, the report as well will provide a background to our planning scheme moving forward. As well as the work that the Ports North will be doing down at the Port of Marulian itself. So the recommendation is that Council accepts the project schedule agreement, inclusive of the agreement terms and funds awarded under that funding program for the business case proposal for the Port of Marulian Strategic Priority Development Area Planning Study, and resolves to allocate the required 40% funding shortfall as outlined in that program. As part of the budget review too, to ensure the successful delivery of this project. So, Council, the project's really around, ensuring that we understand what is required to support the Port of Marulian, what land is required, what size is that required, what types of businesses we'll be looking at, what type of infrastructure that is required to facilitate a service precinct of this scale. So you got water, do we need sewer, what type of network internally, access to the main road, so you'd be heavily working with Ports North, DTMR, those types of states, as well as probably EDQ and so forth. But the initial stage is we need to do this background study to understand what we need before we approach those additional businesses and try and promote that and bring them here with an expression of interest to take up this type of precinct. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Baines?
I just want to go through all these acronyms. So. Probably a question. So this is CCRC applying for the business case funding for the PDAPs through the LGGSP. But so the point, I just wanted to say all that, but the point I'm trying to get to, Mr. Horton, is this is a really important strategic link for Cassowary Coast within the region around the importance of one of the safest deep water ports on the east coast in our region, where it's quite a greenfield site, and there's an important link on that east-west link that we've been speaking about with DTMR in the past and with Ports North. So I commend the council to support this as a project. I think it's a fantastic project. I commend yourself and your team on all the work you've been doing around a project like this. And I'm very happy to move this motion, Madam Mayor. And I don't have an acronym to throw into the back of that. WDA, well done all.
Councillor Jessup?
I'm not real good at acronyms, but I think this is such a great investment in our future, and we'll have to find the money for it. Simple as that.
So my further to that, this is vital for the Port of Marillion to become a very important part of the North Queensland transport hub, which we have been talking about and advocating for right across the state. So I'm fully supportive of the allocation of the 40%. However, I just wondered if there was any indication of where that would be coming from, seeing it wasn't budgeted for. Do we have to push back on other items, or what space do we get into there?
Through the chair, I have got an acronym for Councillor Baines, which is EDS. So this was a priority project in our economic development strategy that council adopted, 10.2 under industry planning and prioritisation. And as you've said, this is such a key link, and I think we've underestimated for so long the value of a deep water port that's connected to major heavy rail, the highway. We've got a regional airport, and that east-west connection up the Palmerston is just critical. So as Mr. Horton's pointed out, actually making sure that we properly plan and get the right use in here, because obviously there's a number of residential properties that have slowly crept down into that port precinct, which aren't really a complementary use to having an active port. So from the EDS, we did put an application through for Works for Queensland funding to fully fund this project. This project didn't align with the funding program for Works for Queensland, so we have gone and adjusted our Works for Queensland funding application. We've got 20 approved projects in that at the moment. Obviously, one of those projects that we put in when this was unsuitable focused on progressing works to do with the long-term dredging of the works we've got down at 1 Mile Creek, Stony Creek, down in Port Hinchinbrook. We are yet to understand where the new state government sit with regard to this, but certainly the Labor government, whilst they were in power, had discussed taking on board the dredging of 1 Mile Creek, Stony Creek, and the taking and acquiring the land that is currently in liquidation down there. So if that was to progress, and that's probably a conversation I'm sure that the new LNP government are busy in their first 100 days focusing on a number of priorities, but if that was to progress, there's an opportunity that we could potentially find another project that council have that's funded through our municipal funds, through our ratepayer funds, and actually reallocate that potentially into Works for Queensland, which would free that up. But As the recommendation says, I can't give you certainty where that comes from until we've got a resolution to go and find that, but we'll go through and work through that budget review 2 process to identify for council's consideration where that funding comes from. It is important to execute a project schedule for this agreement. The state will want to know that there is a commitment, so the resolution today is important to execute that, and I understand from Mr Horton that the team are ready and raring to go, and like we said, accelerating this process to take advantage. The Ports North Master Plan has identified that they want to push sugar and minerals out of the Cairns port. They want to attract more white boats and grey boats. It's such an opportunity down here, and as Mr Horton's highlighted, we just need the planning in place to help facilitate that in the right way and make that attractive for investment. Silica Resources Australia are already operating and have grand plans, like you said, to use a deep water port that's underutilised. It's they're not going to be the only investment in this region that sees the value of that area.
Absolutely, we definitely want to cash in on that. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure we had the ability to chop and change. And yes, Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, just on that, Mr Horton, so the time frame on this, what did you say it was again, sorry? To get
Through the chair, we'll be looking to go out RFQ very shortly once this goes through, and hopefully goes through today, so we'll get requests for quotes.
And I'm presuming we'll be working in with Ports North and TMR with this reporting.
Yeah, so we'll go out, the consultants with ourselves, mate, will be, Councillor, sorry, we'll be working through and ensuring that we cover all bases to align, because we need to understand that. What are we going to have with upgrades to the state control road? Yep. Even ourselves internally, infrastructure-wise, what do we need for a water main? Is the water main capacity okay now? But to build an industrial, service precinct, what does that look like and what costings are around that? So you need to understand every component, Then you got purchase of land, acquiring that, So there's another aspects, ergon. There's a lot of players in the business, but we need to understand what that looks like from a need perspective. Then we need to flow that through into our planning scheme and have a look at what our current planning scheme is zoned, how that works. But the state, if you're going to change your scheme to reflect some type of industrial precinct or commercial precinct, you need to have the background studies done. Otherwise, they won't look at it. They just won't look at it.
Yeah, I just think the timing's perfect, especially working with our planning scheme and also the regional planning scheme, because the Meridian area has been identified within the regional planning scheme too, hasn't it?
Through the chair, we're waiting for the draft. Yeah, so we've put a lot of emphasis on investigation area being in that regional plan. We also got the infrastructure plan that's come out, which highlighted the East West Link, and that upgrade required and what we need to look at with the Palmerston. To open up that area to come back to that port. As the CEO said, it's underutilised, and we really need to ensure that we're in front and we understand what we need to be able to draw business and offshoots, I suppose, of what's in Townsville and in Cairns for our port. They might have a large setup in Cairns, but they might need an offset in our area as a smaller type of operation. There might be better fees structure out of our port. Those are the things that we need to understand and work with Ports North, DTMR, state, and all those types of stakeholders that we need to be part of this.
Councillor Baines.
Well, that was a great segue. Thank you, Mr Horton, because you spoke about stakeholders. So, and the resolution today is about let's get the business case sorted, and so the wherever that lands with whichever provider comes to us, they'll also engage with other stakeholders around the area, which commercial fishing, the wreck fishers, Coast Guard, all those sorts of conversations will be had in that. I don't want people to think that we're talking about this now and all of a sudden that's going to become some great commercial port we're going to lock everyone out of. That's not the intent of this, and all stakeholders will be engaged as we move forward. Is that a fair comment?
Through the chair, well, Ports North have control of Port of Meridian. This is around what do we need to service that port. So outside of what's the land that Ports North got, what do we need? Where is that location? What does it look like? What size of it is? How many acres of land do we need? And what is the type of business we're trying to attract to complement what is down at the port. So what is that support industries? You know, you might have silica sand, but you need a transport depot, or you need a mechanical depot to support that so we need to understand what that is and what that looks like, and have those grounds to be able to then proceed through to discussions with state and so forth moving forward.
Through the chair, if there are residents that are concerned about that, I'd certainly encourage them to have a look at the Ports North Master Plan, and it clearly identifies with expansion that where the existing recreational facilities are, they may in the future move, but certainly their master plan retains recreational facilities in the Port of Marillion.
Yeah, and I think the comment was more about that we will engage with all the stakeholders and everyone will be part of this, because it's a huge piece of work, and I agree with Councillor Jessup. You know, this is an essential investment in our region and how we move forward. So it's great, and I think the answers that Mr. Horton and Mr. Graffin just gave exhibit that we will be engaging with people and talking with people. They'll be part of this. Yeah, so great. Thank you so much.
Councillor Jessup?
Yes, sorry, the CEO's pretty much answered my question with engaging with the people that live there. I'm happy to move this because it's you've already moved it. Well, I will second it, because this, like I said, it is a great investment in our future and our economic status, as well as job creation and livability as well. So happy to second.
Thank you. Very good. And we do encourage any of those people that live there or those that are already in that precinct that may have concerns to contact council, because there's always a conversation to be had. Yeah. Okay, all in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Council.
Thank you for that wonderful information. We'll move on to governance, environment and finance, 6.1, 2024-25 financial performance report, and this will be presented by Ms. Peters. Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Miss Peters.
All right, I'm here today to present the finance performance report for September 2024. A couple of key highlights to point out. So operational revenue year to date is $50.2 million, which is greater than budget by $4.7 million. And we've achieved 49.25% of our total budgeted revenue year to date. Operational expenditure year to date is just under $27.5 million, which is under budget by $912,000. So we've got greater revenue and slight underspend in our expenditure, which results in an operational surplus year to date of $22.7 million, which is greater than budget expectations by $5.7 million. Total capital expenditure, including commitments, represents 45% of the total capital budget, and our end of month cash balance is $85.8 million. As always, I'll just go through a couple of the key highlights. So our revenue. Fees and charges greater than budget by $190,000. So $75,000 of this is related to budget phasing. So our food licenses, we've got split across the 12 months, where actually it's just kind of in 1 or 2 months. So we'll fix that phasing. The other additional revenue is part of transfer stations. So we are seeing additional revenue versus budget in our transfer stations of $60,000. Building applications of $25,000 and cemeteries $8,000. Interest revenue slightly below budget by $22,000. Again, council officers are continuing to review cash flow. We have invested $25 million at the moment, and I'm literally just speaking to one of my officers now about potentially investing further. So something we're constantly reviewing. Operating grants and contributions, a similar story to the rest of the financial year here. We are over budget here. That was due to the timing of that financial assistance grant, and we will be seeking approval at BR1 to rephase the financial assistance grant that we have budgeted for the June this financial year. Moving on to expenditure. Our employee expenses over budget by $126,000, and again this is largely due to that attrition that we've applied to the budget. So we applied that 10% attrition across all roles within council. So whilst we are seeing that attrition come through in some areas of council, we're not seeing it in other areas, which is good and bad, depends how you look at it. We're not losing people, so we're not spending money on recruitment and losing all that knowledge in the organisation, but we're just keeping that budget assumption. Our contract labour, there's some tables in the report just highlighting the split of contract labour overspend. So it's currently overspent by $64,000, and a couple of reasons why. Corporate and community services contract labour was used an additional 3 to 4 weeks of additional hours to support the introduction of the new waste contractor. Commercial services, IPA staff, again contract labour, have been used to offset their savings in salaries and wages. So actually when you look at employee expenses and contract labour in commercial services, it offsets. And then infrastructure services, contract labour has primarily been used to cover a couple of long-term absences there. Again, these figures now are almost a month out of date, but just a quick update to show that for infrastructure services, October's figures are showing a huge reduction in the use of contract labour, so that's great. Sorry, my report is in the wrong order. Materials and services. We are under budget by just over $1 million in materials and services. And the large portion of this is due to the timing of our new waste collection contracts. We again had it phased over 12 months, where we're actually expecting a ramp up from March onwards when recycling is implemented. And again, once we've got more certainty around those invoices, we'll look to make an amendment to the budget. And then also the timing of the Port Hinchinbrook dredging, which the CEO mentioned in the previous report. That is an in and out, so we've got the expenditure and the revenue just phased differently to potentially how we're expecting the expenditure to come through. Capital works, excuse me. As at the 30th of September 2024, we'd spent $11.6 million of the $84.85 million capital budget. If we include commitments, we've spent just under $38 million, so that's about 45% of the capital budget is either expended or committed to be expended, with only 25% of the year elapsed, so that's a really good position to be in. Investment performance, I spoke briefly already, $85.5 million of cash with $25 million in fixed term deposits, which is great, and in some good interest. And our risks and opportunities, no new ones to kind of highlight at this point, just that the risks are that 10% attrition that we've applied to our employee expenses. And then our opportunities being depreciation, which we're looking to propose an amendment to BR1, and our financial assistance grant, again, amendment to BR1, hopefully, to correct that forecast. So that is the finance report. The council recommendation is that council receive and note the 2024-2025 financial performance report in September 2024.
Councillor Baines moved it. Sorry, but I've got a reel of questions here for you. So the interest, I presume, is just lower because the interest rate dropped?
Yep, and it's $21,000 less than what we thought in the budget. We really did push that budget, but we have seen a slight reduction in interest rates across that time.
Through the chair too, I guess some other challenges with managing cash flow. This year we've got $96 odd million worth of capital work, so there's some pretty large claims that come in through that process, but need to highlight the great work that our finance team do. It's over $4 million in the budget just in interest, and that's the great work, actually making sure that we get good rates and making sure that we manage cash flow and invest that. That would equate to effectively a 10% rate rise if that wasn't generated through that investment.
So if the attrition rate, which we talked about in our budget deliberations, contributing to some significant savings moving on to the next budget, if they are not identified, do we have measures in place to find those savings elsewhere?
Look, yeah, through the chair, like we said, it's an assumption that was made, and again, it was an assumption that was made, based on trying to reduce the impost on our ratepayers in the last budget. So, that 10% attrition rate equates to, again, about $3 million. So, rather than raising rates to accommodate that. We've made that assumption, and we're working hard to realise that. As has been highlighted, it's not a bad thing that we're retaining staff.
No, that's a good thing,
But
really.
what we're coming into now, and council have historically had what we would say is a freeze on recruitment over the Christmas period. If you start recruitment now, by the time you advertise, interview, you're trying to do that through the Christmas shutdown. People aren't looking at moving; they're thinking about Christmas. So, as of tomorrow, recruitment freeze commences. Council have also will have a 2-week shutdown, which was adopted over that Christmas period. So that's going to encourage or require staff to utilise RDOs and annual leave over that period. Not to mention we typically see an increase in use of our annual leave over that period. So we do anticipate that both the recruitment freeze will mean that there will be vacant roles that are held for a period, so that will increase the attrition. But also, the increased utilisation of annual leave and other leave entitlements, not just through the shutdown, but during that period that people normally take advantage of their leave, will ideally see this through January, February, March start to normalise somewhat. If we're not seeing that by February, March, obviously, then officers would bring some other considerations to council, but we're comfortable that we can manage that, and that this next period will have the effect that we're looking for.
And the extra staff required in the transition of the waste contractor, so has that now reverted back?
Through the chair, absolutely. Look, we saw a significant spike for a period of about 4 weeks. I guess you have a program and a contractor tells you that they're undertaking a certain program, but then over time, and particularly over the life of that contract, there becomes some nuances there where individuals ask if a bin can be picked up later, or maybe picked up on a street that it's not in the program, which serves to benefit either the individual property or the business. So we did have to iron out some of those bugs, and appreciate the patience that the community and the business community had with us during that time. To put it into context, 99.97% of bins were emptied during that period, but that 0.03% obviously equates to about 40 a day that we were dealing with. So that's resolved now. Council's certainly looking at lessons learned and hoping that the transition just from dry waste to commingled recycling in March, April this in 2025 won't have as significant an impact. But that said, we'll certainly be looking at the lessons learned from that stage and looking to implement those as we transition in March, April next year.
Yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve for us, wasn't it? There was also a specific project in payroll which saw an increase. What's that relate to?
Yeah, look, through the chair, council are continually reviewing I guess our interpretation of our agreement. We've recently undertaken 2 processes where we've taken on board the direct management of our transfer stations. They were historically managed through a contract with MAMS, and we have also taken on board the new enterprise agreement. So one of our projects through our internal audit was to do a review of how we're interpreting that, to ensure that that interpretation aligns with an external interpretation of how we should be looking at things like allowances and shift labour.
Okay.
So it's part of that process. It has identified some minor anomalies there, which that team have worked through, and we said the purpose of that internal audit and also is really been to make sure that we identify those at an early point if they are, and you hear about these businesses that 3 years down the track have significantly underpaid staff. So we're making sure that we've got that right, but we think important to invest that additional time to do that, and where there are specific or direct issues there to make sure that we can correct those and make sure that we've got that right.
Yeah, well, best to get on top of it now rather than, like you say, down the track. And there was one more thing, the 700,000 in savings from the depreciation. Do we use that to offset the unmet attrition rate, or could it be used to reduce the deficit?
So that will be a part of the budget review one discussions that we'll be having in the coming weeks. Officers will propose a number of options for council to decide how they want to move forward with that.
Yeah, I think through the chair again, council adopted a deficit budget to reduce the impact on our ratepayers through that 24-25 financial year. But yeah, the BR1 considers a number of opportunities, but also a number of risks. And there is that conversation with council about whether you decide to take up some of the opportunities this early in the financial year while we still have a number of risks that potentially haven't
Come up,
arisen. It may be easier, but yeah, we'll certainly bring that through BR1, and that will come back to council to consider any movements.
And that surplus, is that mostly related to the financial assistance grant?
Yeah,
okay.
Most all of it, yeah.
Thank you.
Through the chair, there was a strong conversation at the LGAQ conference down in Brisbane last week about, local government should have a larger piece of that pie.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, out of what is being generated through taxes, not enough of that is flowing down to local government, which is the sphere of government that is most closely impacting our residents, but to the makeup of that and what percentage. And Cassowary Coast has been lucky in recent years where, due to our demographic, our large road network, we have received incrementally an increase in that financial assistance grants. But the frustrating point for all local governments is the inconsistency around the timing. I think fair to say we don't care when they pay it, as long as they do it consistently.
Yeah, it was interesting to see some of those bigger councils crying about not getting a big enough piece of the pie, but I invite them to come up here and see our challenges before they go any further. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. Well, another great segue about the LGAQ conference as well, because the then leader of the opposition, who was now the Queensland Premier, made quite several commitments to the group, and one of the commitments was around the dreaded D word, depreciation, which has its own acronym. We won't share that acronym. But I think it's an exciting space now, working with the new government, and it's also being looked at federally. There is a Senate inquiry into the processes and how that works. So I think local government is well positioned in the future, and let's see how we go. So exciting times for finance.
So we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jessup seconded. All in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
6.2, amending subordinate local laws, and we invite Miss Lampard to present. Good morning.
Morning. Through the chair. This report is really just a matter of process. So earlier this year, late last year, we did community consultation on a number of changes to the animal management local law and the local government controlled areas and roads local law. They then came back to council in February. So this report is now creating and amending local law that then goes to the Department of Local Government to enact those changes.
Well done. Right up your alley, Councillor Baines.
Governance rocks, and I will say the local laws team do a fantastic job in this space, because again, it's not the sexy stuff in council.
It's not.
But we keep control of all these, and the amendments are very relevant, and it's going to be much easier for the team to move forward and encourage responsible animal management within our region as well. So well done, and I'm happy to move this.
Happy to move.
No, sorry. Through the chair, the recommendation is that council adopt the Cassowary Coast Council amending subordinate local law number 1, animal management and local government controlled areas and roads 2024.
Now you may so move, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Chewy. So I have had some inquiries about what do I say, increasing some of the patrols maybe, but anyway, it's probably another conversation for another day, but you know, the possibilities of looking at what we can do around the area. Yeah, so all good.
Through the chair, just going to say we've got 4,500 square kilometres of land and 5, 6 really local law officers that cover that region. And as Councillor Baines has highlighted, dog control has been a major issue, and it's unfortunate some of the incidents that those officers have had to deal with. But on top of that, parking, I know we're hearing a little bit more this time of year around illegal camping, and yes, I think if council do wish to apply a stronger focus on that at BL1 is the opportunity to demonstrate that there are costs involved with officers outside of hours, and particularly illegal camping. You need to be able to identify that they've been there all night and then to infringe in the morning. So it does take a significant investment in time and labour, and often not safe to do that one-on. They need to be two up, because when you wake someone up in the morning with a fine, they're not always in the best of moods to deal with that.
Councillor Chewy.
Thank you. And I know this is a conversation later on, but we're started. Can you just briefly, when should RSPCA be called? Because there's us and then there's RSPCA.
Yes,
there is a
so
difference.
Through the chair, RSPCA respond to animal neglect and abuse and cruelty matters. We can't respond to that.
No. So do we have something on our media that can let people know that information?
I'll check our website for sure. I'm sure there is something in there, and certainly if they ring the council,
Yes.
I know that our customer service
Have the
people
information.
have those instructions.
Okay. Thank you.
RSPCA also, they've got a website, they advertise themselves, their
Sure.
numbers are
I just think people still tend to think everything falls back to council. So I just liked if we could provide clarity as to what our role is and what RSPCA's role is, that might just lighten the load off council in some way. Thank you.
Councillor Baines.
No more acronyms from me, but I won't promise that actually. Just further too, and it's a great conversation that we're having, but I just wanted to pass on to Miss Lambert to go to your team that are working on the parking officers, because the conversations I'm having in Innisfail and across the region in general is that it's great to see the parking officers on the streets, working, distributed. There are not all people are happy. Generally, the ones that receive a fine are not as happy. But then they also understand that there are consequences, and that the council is actually working in this space now. So be aware. Yeah. It's not an area we've been very strong in over the years, but please pass on to the team. They're doing amazing work.
Appreciate that.
It's not the easiest job in the world. Some of the conversations they have in the street, I reckon, would be really difficult. But just please pass on my personal congratulations to the team.
Appreciate
that. And everybody, read the signs and make sure you do it right.
Because it was the community that asked for that. Absolutely. They asked for more policing of the areas, so it's exactly what we've done. Yep. So
you only get a fine if you're doing something wrong.
That's right. Okay, so we've moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Chair, can I just call for a short break?
Sure.
Possible? Before we
just have a break, please.
This one might go around for a while.
Welcome back. We will now move on to 6.3, the operational plan 24-25, and this will be presented by our Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you. Look, through the Chair, Council adopted its 24-25 operational plan on the 26th of June 2024. The operational plan outlines the activities undertaken during the 24-25 financial year which contribute to the achievement of the strategies outlined in the Corporate Plan 21-25. So today we present the operational plan quarterly report for Q1. You can see the status of initiatives where we've got a green dot that indicates that the initiative is progressing as scheduled. Where we've got an orange dot in a traffic light system indicates that the initiative may not progress as scheduled. And where there's a red dot, it's off track. This initiative is at risk of being completed. Where there's a blue tick, that initiative has been completed and achieved the targeted outcomes. So just we'll touch on the layout. So again, we put each of the initiatives under the pillars from our corporate plan. We then look at the operational initiative, what the success measure is, who the lead department are for that success measure, and the expected work undertaken. So obviously being the Q1 report, where an initiative is identified to be delivered in Q2, Q3, Q4, whilst there might be commentary, there may not necessarily be commentary because those projects are progressing and haven't yet been delivered. I might just touch quickly on some of the highlights in the projects from Q1 which have been completed. So remember that Council adopted the forward procurement plan, which has now been published and is in use. That was initiative number 4. Our customer service is still providing ongoing services and systems training in relation to the customer request process. That's an ongoing one for the next 2 quarters. Number 16, facilitate respectful sharing of culture. So the implementation of the Cassowary Coast Regional Council Reconciliation Action Plan, as well as the establish a First Nation Advisory Committee. So that has gone through. That First Nation Advisory Committee is currently has gone out for expressions of interest. Those expressions of interest are being assessed at the moment, and we look forward to bringing that group together. I know the Mayor's had some commentary with ratepayers recently. That's not a paid, it's a voluntary, opposed to the CANS group, and it is really a group that come together to provide some, not direction, but advice to Council around First Nations matters within our region. I keep moving through the report. Go to 28, where we've identified that that initiative is maybe slightly delayed. So that's the establishment of 2 registers of pre-qualified suppliers arrangements for plant and truck hire and trades and services. So that was identified for Q1. Council will recall that those have now been accepted and adopted by Council. So whilst it's complete, it was completed early in Q2, not in Q1. We keep going down through the report. I'll take you to 39, which was to the adoption of the prioritisation of unsealed roads upgrade policy and procedures. So recall that policy was developed by an infrastructure department and has been adopted. It now provides a framework for Council when considering the upgrade or sealing of unsealed roads across our road network. I'll take you down to region, our natural environment, and to Initiative 50, which was the implementation of a new Cassowary Coast curbside collection contract. We talked to that a little bit earlier in the meeting today, but the contract with JJ Richards has been executed and implemented. Like I said, we will have a transition to commingled recycling and not dry waste as we move into end of Q1, start of Q2 in the 2025 calendar year. I'll continue down there and probably highlight within our organisation, our leadership team. We have got an initiative there, which is 78, which is provide a grow our own program, creating opportunities for local people, existing workers and new entrants to the workforce to train and develop to take rewarding roles with the Cassowary Coast. So the success measure there is to sustain at least 18 apprentices, trainees roles subject to government funding pleased to say that Cassowary Coast has been successful again for another $195,000 worth of funding to continue to support that initiative, and we have recently celebrated a number of our apprentices actually transitioning into full-time roles within the organisation, but that is an ongoing initiative. I'll take the rest of the report as read, but I'm happy to touch on any initiatives or success measures that Council would like to discuss, and there is a recommendation there which is purely that the quarterly review of the 24-25 operational plan to 30 September 24 be received and its contents noted.
Very good, thank you. Any comments? I've got a heap, so does anybody want to go first?
I'll jump in
Councillor
first.
Baines?
See if I can pinch some of yours. Thank you, Chair. Just a comment on the Grow Your Own program. It's a great initiative. It's been rolling through the organisation for several years, but it's really matured and it's come out. I mean, we've had programs in the past where people get through a traineeship and then off they go, or they get through an apprenticeship and then off they go. But this retention of the growing our own people is a really encouraging piece. The establishment of the crush, I'm going to call it the crush, not the chuck or cuck, the Regional University Study Hub is again only going to lend itself to some of these initiatives that we're working through. So I just, looking at the operational plan and the initiatives that are moving forward, I'm very encouraged by one, thank the councillors for all their work on getting involved in this and being part of it, and I thank all the staff and the executive team for the works they've put into this and the commitment that's being shown. And two, the entire organisation staff. I spoke earlier and I congratulated Miss Lambert on the works that the regulatory team are doing. I've been getting lots of conversations coming in for the parks and open areas teams and the great works that they're doing. So I don't think there's enough of that in our community, but I've got residents that are ringing up council or turning up at the chambers and complimenting the staff on the work they do. So without an operational plan like this, of course, which gives us a direction, we can't achieve these things. But the way the organisation is being placed, and thanks to all the team and an operational plan like this, it's a great piece of work. So thank you, everyone.
You didn't have an acronym for that.
I threw the crushing there, which I threw the crushing.
Right.
Yeah, WDA, well done all.
Through the Chair, the Cassowary Coast University Centre, which is operated by VPG.
Yes, that's right. The crush.
Did you want to say something, Councillor? No?
I'm through the chair, Councillor Baines. I think a lot of your I don't think he's listening.
My apologies, I was being interrupted.
That's okay. I feel that a lot of the comments that people that our community are making now is and to the progress that the council is making as well is due really and largely to the fine weather that we're receiving as well, where things can actually get done. Because, at the start of the year, nothing was moving. So, yeah, I think thank you to Mother Nature at this stage as well.
Very good. I agree. I agree that it takes everybody within the Cassowary Coast Regional Council to make all of the operational plan, the cogs turn and the wheels turn. So well done to everybody. I do have a few questions. So I did notice under economy, our future, number 23, was we're expecting a financial and performance report from CCT. Is that coming soon?
Yeah, look, through the chair, typically that's, I understand we typically receive that towards the end of the calendar year, but I'll follow
Okay.
up. But part of their financial agreement certainly is the provision, and there's some KPIs in there that that Cassowary Coast Tourism need to meet with regard to the provision of that funding.
I do note that they have a AGM soon, so maybe it will follow after that. At number 39, which you did touch on, the unsealed roads upgrades, So what does that look like? Is that upgrading from dirt to bitumen? What's the actual?
Yeah, through the chair. Sorry, 39 or
Is it 39?
so that through the chair. The policy that has been adopted basically identified a criteria and a weighting for that criteria. Council would be aware we've got over 500 kilometres of unsealed roads across the region, and everyone that drives on those roads would identify that their road is likely a priority. Unfortunately, we have limited budget to implement upgrades, and the directive, and thanks to the infrastructure team for workshopping this with council and bringing this together. And I know there was feedback when we workshopped with council that one of the highest priorities for council is whole of life costs. So what are the roads that we're putting the most maintenance expenditure into, and how will this impact that? I know we talked about the D word, depreciation, earlier, that depreciating these sealed roads has historically been a concern, but this new prioritisation will allow council to at least use a determined qualitative criteria to allocate funding to those roads which provide the best bang for buck. And certainly there's an opportunity with the corporate plan that council's developing at the moment to really indicate to the community what those roads are, and provide some clarity around that.
Yeah, so given there is prioritisation, there's also a limited budget. As we are aware, we don't have an endless pit, but it's good that we've got that plan in place, and when people come, you can sort of direct them to that and say, well, this is next, that's next, this is for consideration. So yeah, well done. The stormwater condition assessment, where are we at with that?
Through the chair, it's I think is that initiative, you want just passing the initiative?
44?
44.
I don't know what it's under. I just wrote the number
Yeah, so
down.
44
Sorry.
is program for Q3. So I imagine our infrastructure team at the moment are undertaking some work to scope that up, and stormwater. A lot of our stormwater is underground, so requires specialised equipment to undertake those. But really critical when we look at, again, you talk about depreciation. The reason that we do get measured on our depreciation is that the state are very keen to understand whether councils are investing enough money into renewal of their existing infrastructure. What undertaking these condition assessments allows is, whilst there's a useful life that an asset may have, the condition will provide us with a greater level of certainty around how that is performing. Some assets deteriorate faster, and that useful life or remaining useful life is considerably shorter. So this will aid council, one, in understanding what the activities are we need. We now have a stormwater asset management plan that was adopted recently by council, and prioritise our spend on those projects that that need it most. And I think most people, whether you're in Innisfail or Mission Beach at the moment, are aware there's some pretty significant stormwater assets being renewed there, and stormwater assets, when they are renewed, create a significant impact on roads and properties and drainage. So it's really important that investment is put to the right infrastructure. But that will inform next year's budget and be undertaken in Q3.
Very good, because they're the things that people don't see, like the sewage and the water pipes and all those sort of things that people don't actually see, that have to be upgraded and fixed at different times. And then we go down to 60, the Coastal Council's Adaptation Task Force Officer, which I believe is a new position, which isn't on our current structure. So who's funding this, and how long is that for?
Through the chair, it's only 0.5 of an FTE because it is funded by the member councils that are involved in that process. So the Coastal Council's Adaptation Task Force, or the CCAT, was formed in April 2011, and it's an alliance of 5 Queensland councils, and that role is to assist those councils and communities to collaborate on building coastal resilience and planning in light of climate change. I think we've all seen with the king tides that we've had recently the damage that they are starting to have to some of our coastal infrastructure. I think you look to Cairns every time there's a king tide there. a number of precincts within Cairns, including Port Smith, are flooded and inundated by salt water. So we have Cassowary Coast have put their hand up to home that role, but that role is funded by the member councils there. So we invoice member councils, but Cassowary Coast have identified that having that body sitting here, you get more value typically. As we've done with some of our arrangements with F&Q Rock, where we've also housed some of their officers, because bringing that skill set into conversations in the hallway, and certainly conversations with some of our officers in that natural environment sustainability space are critical. But we've obviously got members on the executive of that CCAT.
And we have seen some benefits from that, haven't we, Councillor Baines?
If I may add, and we have seen benefits from this sort of work, and I will say that hosting the officer as part of a partnership is very advantageous. We're perfectly positioned for that, being the beating heart of the wet tropics and the birthplace of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Got to get it once into every meeting. But I think the opportunities coming out of a position like this are going to be astounding moving into the future. The single greatest risk to the Great Barrier Reef is climate change, and there's probably, let's say, one of the single greatest risks to coastal communities is also climate change and the possibility of sea level rising and or increased severity of events, which we've seen several late last year and early this year. So having an officer like this hosted within the organisation as a shared FTE is a great benefit and an opportunity at the same time, Chair.
Through the Chair, I think the QCoast funding for our coastal hazard adaptation study has been invaluable, but also quite a sobering experience, because we are very exposed and we have a significant amount of coastline within our region, being as large as we are, and there's significant dollars required, and to be honest, without advocation and putting the business cases forward for funding for some of those projects, Council is going to have to look at other opportunities, which could be loans to actually be able to implement some and to protect some of the infrastructure that Council and community have along that coastline.
Very good. Have you done the recommendation?
I did mention it, but I can again recommend that Council, that the quarterly review of the 24-25 operational plan to 30 September 24 be received and its contents noted.
We have a mover. Moved by Councillor Jessup, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Now we shall move on to 6.4, the adoption of the annual report, and this will also be presented by our Chief Executive Officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Look, Section 182 of the Local Government Regulations require Council to adopt an annual report within 1 month of the audit opinion being signed. The signed audited financial statements are dated from the 11th of October 2024, so we fit within that time frame. The annual report contains Council's audited financial statements for the 23-24 financial year, together with other reportable information, and provides an overview of Council's operations. Pleased to share that Council has received that final management report for the Cassowary Coast Regional Council for 23-24 financial year. The QAO have undertaken that audit and have issued an unmodified audit opinion on our financial statements again this year, which is a great result, and our team should be commended for the work that they do in that space, and they're often highlighted by staff at QAO for the diligence in undertaking that. You might recall we had a deficiency identified, or a significant deficiency identified in the interim audit report. Pleased to say that it's identified in the final report that has been resolved. So that purely was an entering into a large size contractual arrangement without first inviting written tenders, and remind that was with regard to the stinger nets, which are a bespoke product. Effectively, the gap there was that the providers of those stinger nets were somehow omitted from the sole specialised supplier list, which does provide an exception to the requirement to go out to tender. So those that have visited our stinger nets in South Mission Beach, Mission Beach up the front of Castaways, Curramine or Eddy Bay, will know that they are, there's a lot of infrastructure in the ground and they are quite bespoke. We can't go to other providers for those. So Council have now adopted those sole specialised and as a sole specialised provider, as well as there's a number of other initiatives, including a procurement review board, which Council has implemented since that time to ensure that there is oversight about procurement prior to going to market, but also prior to coming back to Council for a recommendation. So pleased to say that that's been identified in the report as resolved. Look, the annual report is there for Council and for the public to review. 2023-24 was an interesting year for the local government. Certainly as the Chief Executive Officer, very proud of the achievements that the organisation has made together with our community. That couldn't happen without the guidance that our council provide and the courage that they've shown in their decision making over that period. We have really been pleased with the refocus on sustainability. We've got, as Councillor highlighted, 2 World Heritage areas within our region, which we do have a need to maintain, but also the community engagement. And I think there's been a shift in Council in actually actively and genuinely engaging, and we've seen some great outcomes from that. The work that's happened in the Tully CBD with the Banyan Park beautification, the work that's happened at Marina Lakes, and also some of the engagement that's driven the design for the Mission Beach master plan has been commendable. Obviously the impact of Cyclone Jasper and the associated flooding events was a significant impact on our community. Over 400 houses that were impacted by that event. We're talking $35 million worth of work to reconstruct some of our essential infrastructure across the region. In some ways, we've been blessed to receive some Cat D funding, which has allowed some initiatives to be progressed that will hopefully create a quicker recovery for our region, but also a more resilient region as we unfortunately move into another wet season in the upcoming months. Look, there's a lot of priorities that have come out of the 2022 scorecard that Council undertook, and obviously we're looking to release the 2024 scorecard with the corporate plan shortly. But pleased that we have moved into that space with the local housing action plan in 24-29 to really start to address some of the pressing need for affordable and sustainable housing in our region, and ensuring that all residents that we've got in this region have a safe place to call home. The advocacy that this council has undertaken and continues to undertake, and in our portfolio holder for advocacy, our mayor is certainly putting the Cassowary Coast front and centre, and we saw that at the LGAQ conference, taking part in a number of the panels there and speaking strongly on now looking at insurance and some of the challenges that's creating for our community, but the advocacy in 23-24, particularly around health services, which predominantly in Mission Beach and Cabell have been a really strong focus. The housing, but also looking at community safety and chasing additional funding to improve community safety through our region. So all in all, we have had a busy year, a year that's been interrupted by not just a couple of severe weather events, but what some people in the community have communicated that was probably the wettest year that they've seen since the early 1970s, which has put made a real impact on our road network. So pleased that people will now see that the DRFA funding that has been provided, the contractors are on the ground. There's a significant amount of works underway at the moment, but we have been delivered a lot for the community based on some pretty challenging circumstances created by TC Jasper and the associated flooding. There is, I don't know if councillors wish to speak to the report, but there is a recommendation there that council receive the audited financial statements for the 23-24 financial year, adopt the annual report for the 23-24 financial year, and receive and note correspondence from the Queensland Audit Office in relation to the 23-24 annual audit closing report and final management report.
Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Just in relation to some of the projects that have been undertaken in the report over the last 12 months, I just want to highlight some of them, if I may, and just the good work to my fellow councillors on the initiatives and what we've got going. First of all, the regional, the study hub. I mean, that came from the Youth Advisory Committee. That was one of the recommendations put forward by them. Council got behind them, supported it. I know I'm probably taking someone's glory here. Thanks, Councillor Chewy. But yeah, look, I think it's great, and it's, you know, for the opening the other week, it was just brilliant. Look, I'll leave Trudy, you can carry for the rest of that one. But the Eastern Asphalt Footpath, another one, you know, it's completed now. It was in serious need of maintenance and work's done. It's brilliant. Nature play, we had Marina Lakes master plan. We've been to the community, we listened to what they wanted. First of all, it was a pump track. The next stage was the nature play. You know, rather than have some of these older playgrounds that we got in isolated areas around the place, we've made a regional park now, and it's just brilliant. The feedback I'm getting, people are so happy with it. Some of the infrastructure projects, Flynn Road, major big drain on one side, you know, community safety, school buses travelling down there, that project's been completed. Haven't quite completed the Cardwell sewage plant. It's nearly there. It should be completed just before the end of the end of the year. That's another project that's been going on for a long time, so it's near completion. There's so many projects in there that we have. Not everything being completed that it's on people's wish list, but what the council's seen as priorities, and it's just, yeah, hats off to the team, hats off to the council as a contractor, everyone involved. I'll leave it there because every other council is going to have something to say, so I won't speak about all projects. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baines. Sorry, Councillor Chewy, you could go after Councillor
I'm going to jump
Baines.
in to do a nice generic piece and then let someone else talk about specifics. So, and I want to just reiterate the words of Councillor Pervin that we were just speaking about. And this is my third term in council, so I've seen this stuff kicking on from back in 2016. Some of these projects have been rolling on, and I commend the council of today and the previous councils for keeping the work going. It's the persistence and the keeping at it, supporting each other and working forward, and I think the results are really starting to show through. And I will say today, looking at this report from the end of the last term and the beginning of this term, I'm very proud to be part of this organisation, and I thank all the councillors at the table, and I'm sure we can pass that on to Councillor McLeod and Councillor Littlemore when they get back. But again, the broader organisation, without the support of the organisation and us all working together, we couldn't get these sort of things done. And the works that have been achieved are astounding, and it's wonderful stuff to see. The support the councillors have offered myself with the Reef Guardian Council organisation. There's 20 of us now. There's soon to be 21 of us, and on the target this year we're looking at getting 26 councils involved. So I thank the councillors for your support in that space, because it gives me the ability to step into that environmental area where there are a lot of opportunities coming. We were funded for a 3-year program that finishes in June 26, and I started the conversations with the Q yesterday. So I really appreciate the ongoing support of the councillors in this room and the other member councils in that space, because the opportunities coming forward will be astounding when we give, not if, when we show the federal government the value for their investment that local governments will provide them, not can provide them, we will provide it to them. So I just want to thank everyone at the table as well about the support and being able to come up with a great report like this. And people are going to look at this and someone will pick holes in it here or there, but we are really working forward in a very positive, collaborative space, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 years. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor.
Through the chair, I don't know that I have any much left to say, Councillor Baines, after all of that. Yes, well, before Councillor Pervin stole my thunder, yes, once again, congratulations to all those involved on a great report. there were lots of things that you could talk on, but the University Hub was one that I felt was very exciting. As Councillor Purvin said, it happened in a very short space of time. I was at an event recently where one of the mums was excited. It was her last year of school. Her youngest child had graduated grade 12, and the University Hub was relevant to that family because some young people want to leave. They want to travel south or north and do the university. But for those that don't or can't, this is an opportunity to provide that service here, which is fantastic. And also for mature age people who want a career change or to increase their capacity in their current career. Again, that facility is here too. So hats off to everybody and to our Youth Advisory Committee, which I'm also extremely proud of for pushing that and making it forward, moving it forward. Also, just want to talk, we touched today on the RADF grants, the infrastructure grants, the community grants. You know, when I first started, there were like only a very few applications each time, and now it's wonderful to see that these grants are oversubscribed. I mean, I know it's not great for those who don't make it, but we're getting input from community. Community needs are being met. People are engaging with council to see how they can, apply for those grants. So I think that is a great initiative that we've put, and it's lovely to see the community embrace that opportunity to seek funding. So, as I said, I could go, Mission Beach, the CEO touched on that. You know, I had a business in there since 1995, and I think the Mission Beach Master Plan was rolled around for many, 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 many years. There were doubters. If you go down there now, it is happening. And I know I have to remind people constantly because I hear commentary made about money people being used elsewhere, and I have to remind them of the multi-million-dollar project that is in the heart of Mission Beach that will impact for everyone there a much better outcome through amenities, through infrastructure, and bringing people to Mission Beach. People are going to want to come and see what the fuss is about when it's over. So that's got to be a great outcome. So congratulations to everybody for a great report. Thank you to the councillors for their support on sometimes things that might be challenging. It's always great to have debate and discussion on different projects and for everybody to share their opinions. And I value that we're in a space that we can do that safely. So thank you.
Councillor Chesser.
Well, you didn't leave me very much at all of you. Okay, so Tully 100 was probably the highlight of the year for so many people in this town. It's a very proud time for people, and I think even now they're still talking about it, and they probably will for years to come. Congratulations also to the steering committee and the Cassowary Coast Council, who also did so much to make this happen. And it's all continued for us here in Tully as well, because the fences have come down off the first stage of the revitalisation of the Banyan Park. So it's lovely to see that so many people are enjoying the park, and I'm sure that when the further stages go ahead, we are going to have a very strong and vibrant entrance into Tully. So I'm very proud of that, and I call that a very successful revamp. So another thing that I would like to talk about too is the curbside collection. It's settled into a better rhythm at the moment, so now we're getting ready to think yellow. The campaign is set to ramp up after Christmas, and curbside recycling will commence late in March, probably end of March towards April. So we have time to get our recycling right, people. Our council will be writing on the back of the Cairns advertisements, and Tully Landfill is set to be closing in December of this year to the public. We are striving to achieve the government set reduce waste by 2050. So well done to the team and well done to the residents and businesses for this support and continuing cooperation. Also, I might take this opportunity to let residents know the second cyclone cleanup is to be held next weekend, the 8th till the 11th. That's inclusive of the Friday and the Monday. So if you can't get there on the weekend, you still have those extra 2 days. And that's at the Mission Beach, Stodders Hill, Tully and Cardwell transfer stations. Council are offering free disposable of waste and certain outdoor, that's a dry waste, and certain outdoor items. The first one was held on the 18th to the 21st of October. And from last year, we had basically it was double the amount of use from a normal weekend. This year, the first one was 4 times the amount. So people are taking advantage of that. Wow. So I'm really happy with that. Excuse me. So please take advantage of the free disposable. 4 cubic metres, which is a very large load, would normally attract a fee of around $24 or up to $24. So it's not something you can sneeze at. The items that are not included would be like solar panels, old tyres, mattresses, or any items that require degassing like air conditioning, fridges or gas bottles. These types of items will attract a fee. So it's basically your dry waste that you can take for free. The council is also, where was I up to? I've had these written down for a little while. So the council have already identified the work on clearing drains and culverts, and that should commence sometime in the near future. Mr. Baines, you might be able to give me some update on that.
Yeah, the River Trust are working with contractors and finalising negotiations with council, so the works on those 2 projects is imminent.
Wonderful. And also the...
Councillor, do you want to just transfer this over to general business?
Oh, I can do.
Yes.
I was just going to keep going while I was on that.
No, we'll move on.
All right. Okay.
Okay, sorry. So it's down to me now. It's with pride that I sit here and look at what this council and my fellow councillors have achieved in such a short time. Our focus has been on delivering the essential services that matter most to our community, and we will continue to do much more work while understanding the challenges posed by rising living costs, and we are constantly striving to provide greater value for every dollar spent. Surrounded by the natural beauty of our region, we are committed to fostering economic growth that aligns with our responsibility to protect the environment we cherish and ensure it remains pristine for future generations. Over the past year, we challenged ourselves and conducted another community scorecard to understand your priorities better. We deeply appreciate the input from those who participated, contributing over 100,000 words that will shape our future direction. Your feedback has made it clear that roads, footpaths, cycleways, health services, youth programs, community service and safety continue to be top priorities. We remain devoted to advocating for our community at regional, state and federal levels through our partnerships with FNQ Rock, LGAQ, Advance Cairns and our elected representatives. Guided by our advocacy plan, which reflects community priorities, we're working diligently to achieve key outcomes like the finishing of Mission Beach Town Centre Revitalisation Project, the Port Hinchinbrook Sewage Treatment Plant, Banyan Park Beautification, Hyatt Street Reservoir, and the focus on addressing primary healthcare challenges in the area. I am committed to focusing on roads and waste management, and I'm pleased to report that we are now rolling out curbside recycling in the new year and advancing our unsealed roads program. Our commitment to listening and engaging with the community remains strong, as demonstrated by the valuable work of our advisory committees. We extend our heartfelt thanks to all community members who contributed their time and insights. This council is dedicated to finding efficiencies and continually reviewing our practices to deliver better value for money. Local government is a complex and challenging endeavour, I can assure you, but together with the community, we are prepared to face the challenges. We are mindful of the economic pressures on our small ratepayer base, and we are grateful to call the Cassowary Coast home, the most livable tropical community where you can work, play and stay. So thank you all for your contributions to the annual report and for your dedication to Cassowary Coast Regional Council. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jessup. Second it. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. We move on to 7.1. Great motive. Oh no, asset sustainability, and Mr. Valente will present. I won't read out your bit, you can read it yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're seeking a resolution from Council to enter into a facility use agreement over the facility situated at Gundi Bend Sports Reserve. It's the lower old clubhouse on the lower oval. We intend to enter into a facility use agreement with Great Motive Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Corporation. We need your resolution to transfer ownership of the building pursuant to the local government regulations. A bit of background. Great Motive approached Council earlier this year looking for a suitable facility to develop an Indigenous community hub which would also deliver programs and projects to improve the quality of life and foster local Indigenous people's businesses. We explored several facilities which may have been available to meet their purpose. They prefer this facility because of its central location and its proximity to the PCYC. That facility or that building is also very underutilised and in need of repair. We did, however, engage with clubs that do use it occasionally, being Tigers and cricket. They were supportive of Great Motive taking over ownership of that building on the basis that Great Motive had promised that they would make the building available for any sporting or community group that was using the adjoining oval, such as tournaments or training days, what have you. So they were very supportive of that. That has in fact been written into the draft agreement with Great Motive, that they are committed to making that available for shared use. So Great Motive are prepared to take over the asset, they're prepared to upgrade the asset, and they're prepared to make the asset available for community groups going into the future. In addition, the agreement also has significant financial benefits to Council, with depreciation savings of over $9,000 and contributions to utility charges of over $1,000, making an increased annual net position for Council of $10,272 per annum. So we're seeking a resolution that Council apply the exception contained in section 2361B of the Local Government Regulation to grant a facility use agreement to Great Motive Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Corporation as a community organisation, containing the following essential terms. The user will be Great Motive Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Corporation. The facility is a lower clubhouse at Leichhardt Street, Gundi Bend. Term is for 3 years. The fee is $1,156.25, which is their contribution to utility charges. There are no outgoings, they're loaded into the fee. The permitted use is Indigenous Australians, social and business community activities. Ownership of the building will be transferred to the organisation. Second recommendation is authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute the facility use agreement on behalf of Council. And thirdly, authorise the CEO to take all necessary steps to ensure ongoing compliance with the terms and conditions of the agreement. Any questions?
Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, through the chair, Mr. Valente. Just there's often uncertainty about booking when groups take over management and things. So the Great Motivate, I hope I'm saying that correctly, they will be handling any bookings for groups, clubs that wish to use the facility?
It is exclusively for their use, for their function.
Yes.
They will share it, so any group that is requiring use of it for use of the oval
Yes.
will contact them directly.
That's right. Yeah, so council is stepping right out of it.
Absolutely,
Yeah, thank you.
yes.
And they will be easy to contact.
They're
Obviously,
all our dealings with them, they've been very responsive, very courteous, and very proactive. So yes,
Great.
I imagine they will be.
okay. I just know in the past there's been communication has been an issue with various groups, and that's what I've heard. So I'm just hoping that is not going to be happening.
Our engagement with them to date has been very good.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to move it as well.
Move it. Moved by Councillor Chewy. Any further comments? Councillor Pervin.
Morning, Mr. Valente. Yeah, so that's just to take over the clubhouse, it's not the actual field council still.
No,
Is that correct?
just the improvement of that clubhouse itself.
All right. So any hiring of the field, who's that currently lay with? Is that with council,
Council.
or with Innisfail Combined Sports?
Council.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Baines.
He jumped in and seconded it, so that's all right.
Okay,
I was just
no.
going to make a comment that this is another great indication of working with community and working with groups on shared management and of our assets, and there are generated savings that will come out of this sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? Is it a management agreement? Facility management
use
agreement. Facility use agreement, and FUA, if anyone wanted to know the acronym for that. So we'll work on the facility use agreements.
And through the chair, I tell you, it's the best outcome we could hope for. An upgraded facility, transfer of ownership, and still a shared facility.
100%. Well done.
I had a question, but I've just worked it out. I thought that said gastric, but it says GATSIC,
Yes.
which is the whole name put together as an acronym. So
I love those acronyms.
all good. So wow. Okay. All right. So got a mover and a seconder. All in favour of that. Thank you. We'll carry that. 7.2. Over to you, Mr. Valente again.
This is a similar facility use agreement we wish to enter into, and we need a resolution to transfer ownership of the building. It's the building at Carmine Beach Progress. I'll read their full name. It's another long association. Carmine Beach Progress Recreation and Sporting Association Incorporated. They currently occupy the community hall at Carmine Beach. They're a long-established group, established or incorporated in 1986. They built that hall. They previously occupied it under a management agreement, which expired last year. Since then, we've been negotiating with their executive in terms of entering into a new facility use agreement, which also now includes taking ownership of their own building, which they've agreed to do. They've also agreed to take ownership of the cricket buildings at the back of Bowstead Park.
Okay, that's good.
Which is good. We had engaged, again through Councillor Chewy as well, that group were unable, the cricket club were unable to take ownership of that building because they're largely defunct. So we've kept it within that community group, within the Progress Association. So they've agreed to take over ownership of that facility as well. They also have, as part of their agreement, a small curtilage area around the hall, which they maintain, a small area to the west, which they use for parking and market days. Council will retain the internal access road and will retain Bowstead Park, which will remain a dog or fleece area and community park. There are significant financial benefits in the organisation taking over ownership of their building, depreciation savings of $28,167 per annum and contributions to utility charges of $723 per annum. So the ongoing net position improvement to council is $28,890. So we recommend that council again adopt the exception contained in the local government regulation to transfer ownership of the building to that organisation. The term of the agreement was for 5 years. The fee is $723.30 per annum to cover utility charges. The permitted use is a community hall for events and gatherings, sporting and recreational activities, and associated and ancillary uses. The ownership of the building will be transferred to the organisation. Secondly, that we authorise the CEO to enter into that facility use agreement. And thirdly, authorise the CEO to take all necessary steps to ensure its ongoing compliance. Any questions?
Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, Mr. Valente. Just clarifying in my own mind, so Bowstead Park will still be maintained by council?
Yes.
And as a dog off-leash area?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. But the building at the back is new, if this it goes ahead, will be managed by the
It'll be
Progress,
owned.
by the Progress Association. I don't know if anybody's had a chance. It's quite a funky building. So my question to you, what if that were to go ahead, the Progress Association they're quite motivated with things, and so they could apply for a RADF grant to put potentially a mural on that building. I see it as a great photo opportunity because you've got the stairs, you've got the view at the back. We did try to get the barracks, some works done on the barracks that they owned by Meridian Sugar, which they, it wasn't able to proceed forward. But Carramine are keen to have something that will draw people for a photograph, and I think that would be a great, wedding. I mean, it's a great place, to have an event anyway. But so if they were to go ahead, my question, sorry, because I'm talking too much, is that they could in fact apply for a grant to have a mural created on that space.
Certainly, and the agreement will help them apply for the grant. They'll need consent from council to paint the exterior.
Yes. I mean, this is just my idea. They don't even know I'm even asking this question. I just know from previous conversations, but I just thought I might plant the seed.
Yes. We have notified them and we've encouraged them, and personally we encourage everyone we negotiate an agreement with to apply to the infrastructure grant as well, and they will be doing that as well.
Yeah. So and on that, you said the driveway is maintained by council?
Yes.
So they cannot apply for an infrastructure grant to seal some of that driveway?
They could apply, it'd have difficulty.
Okay, thank you. Because there's a bit of an washout issue, but that's another subject. Thank you. Very well done. Happy to move it as well. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Chewy. So that's great to hear, because I know there was a bit of controversy because they just put in that new cricket pitch. Yes. So it's good to see that somebody's going to take that over and look after it. That's really well done by Carramine Beach Progress Association. Well done. Any other comments? You have a seconder? Councillor Jessup, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Move on to 7.3, Innisfail and Tully Walking Network Plan, and Mr Acatino will present.
Good morning all.
Good morning.
Yes, the report I've got in front of you today is the Innisfail and Tully Walking Network Plans. So to give you a bit of background, so in 2019, Queensland Government released the Queensland Walking Strategy that set the vision to make walking an easy choice for everyone every day. To achieve this vision, Transport and Main Roads created the Walking Local Government Grants program, which was developed to assist local governments in preparing walking network plans and deliver walking infrastructure. Council was successful over the past 2 funding rounds to secure 50-50 funding to develop walking network plans in Tully and subsequently in Innisfail. Major component of the walking plans is to identify recommended actions to achieve improved walking environments consistent with the agreed vision on the key links identified in the plans. The walking network plans and recommended actions have been developed based on the TMR guidelines in consultation with community and internal council stakeholders to identify barriers, opportunities and priorities for walking in 2 of our council's major centres. Consultation included online council Your Say engagement pages, community workshops involving community groups and the general public, along with some physical pop-ups in key locations during the consultation periods. The project team would like to thank everyone that participated and provided feedback, as this information for those that walk or want to walk is vital to delivering the plan that benefits the community. Overall, the actions aim to improve walking environments to key destinations within and to and from the precincts for all ages and abilities. The priority actions aim to achieve a step change towards the vision and achieve improvements for people walking in the Innisfail and Tully areas. Across the plans, there were over 200 recommended actions identified, 58 projects in Tully, with 15 of these identified as key projects in the short term, and 148 projects in Innisfail, with 21 identified as key projects in the short term. The guidelines require walking network plan projects to be prioritised based on a ranking system. So these included like ranking them whether or not they're essential, important, or other improvements. Also identifying an action priority, a priority classification lens that involves community and council officers' feedback and to identify areas of interest within the community, which were given a higher priority over actions of the same route in that ranking. So with all that sort of combined, that's what sort of drove those key projects. And but what we will see is that obviously council does have constrained budgets. Being able to deliver all of these projects in a timely manner will be difficult. We will need to consider the priorities of these projects alongside other upgrading projects within the transport network and factor this into future revisions of the Transport Asset Management Plan and the Long-Term Financial Plan. Securing grants will be essential to assisting in funding these projects, and the Queensland Government have announced walking network construction funding. So originally they were only providing planning funding, but now they have released construction funding. However, this funding can only go to items that are approved in walking network plans, so it is essential to have these plans adopted. This morning we have also received an announcement that the Australian Government has released an active transport funding that council can apply to upgrade existing and new pathways and cycleways. This funding is 50-50 funding and is open to projects that are already commenced, which is fairly unique. So, but that allows us to act pretty quickly, so which is good. So the recommendation of the report is that council adopt the Tully Walking Network Plan and Priority Works Program and adopt the Innisfail Walking Network Plan and Action Plan. Any questions?
I was just about to say, Minister King has announced this morning 100 million. So we'll make sure we've got ours in first. Make sure we get our piece of the pie. I did have a question. In table 2 that on Bryant Street there's a refuge island.
Yeah.
I believe that was to be further down Bryant Street, closer to the school. Can you correct me if I'm wrong on that?
That in the initial plan that it was identified that the priority the route mapping was showing that it was the best location was around the Queensland Police Station. However, that is identified as a location. We've got the ability to now do that planning and make sure that we are putting those projects in the right place.
Okay, so we would...
Through the chair, that one's in the budget this year, and when we went through that budget process, we, I guess, took the project back from being as specific to calling it a Bryant Street refuge island, which gives that flexibility.
Good. And then given that we've done these plans for Innisfail and Tully, what do we have in place for the surrounds, such as Silkwood or Tully Heads, for instance?
So what we have done now through the chair is that we have applied for the two next projects that we've identified is Mission Beach and Cardwell, to get walking network plans developed for those areas. We have to then further consider those smaller populations about how we factor that into the overall council priority listing, but we can like those smaller communities are going to be easier to do in-house, whereas those bigger plans takes time and which we do need that funding and that resource to help obtain that. But that is we are looking to make sure that this is going towards a regional plan that we can then and prioritise projects across the region.
Just want to make sure they're not forgotten. So, Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. Which is very important, and it is right. And I mean, I know we're looking at a broader plan because the Cassowary Coast region is the most livable tropical community, and it will be. Just a question around, because some people might look at the plans and they see the indicative time frames attached. Now that, again, probably more, so we're talking about budget constraints. We've only got so much money we can spend every year. So that's not taking into account the extra 100 million that was announced today. So just because on the mapping your little section might say it's in the 20 years away, that's not, we're not saying we're not going to do that for 20 years. If we get the money to do it and we have the capability to do it, it could more than happily come forward. Is that correct?
Correct. And I think we need to, through the chair, we need to consider, like I said, our current budgets and current programs. So there is a project currently identified in the plan. You'll see there's concepts in the back of the Innisfail network plan. One in particular is along Fitzgerald Esplanade, which is the section near the tennis court where it's currently blocked off because of the drainage project. And we're looking at options right now as we speak to try and get that one implemented in opening up that street. So what that project identifies is turning that into a one-way street with a pathway on the side and parking all the way along to accommodate those community facilities there. And if we can get that part of this current project, it'd be a perfect one that we could probably look at this as this grant now that we know about, that we could start works and hope to get that funding back through that.
Let's jump on the ball for let's be in there first.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to try and secure more funding.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any more comments? Moved by Councillor Baines. Councillor Jessup.
Through the chair, is there any reason we can't do the smaller villages sooner?
Through the chair, it's just about resources and time that we were restricted to what we can do based on our availability. That is something that we can go back at and look at in timing.
I think through the chair, can you define smaller villages?
Well, like Silkwood, their footpaths in some places they're just crumbled away, and the kids have to actually ride on the road to
through the chair, I guess
get past them.
The process here is about identifying, walkway and paths that are, creating links and missing links. So where we've got a footpath that's deteriorated, that fits into our renewal program. So the team have now undertaken a inspection and condition assessment across the entire network. So those broken sections would come, but for Silkwood, predominantly one network which runs along the road there. There's not a lot of different links and connectivity required. So we have been talking in the corporate plan about funding this missing links where, for example, there's a section that's not connected, then that can be proposed through a program like that missing links program. But the walking paths program itself is about prioritising new, not necessarily renew. We are funded annually to renew those.
Yeah, I get that, but I feel the people of like Silkwood or any of the other small villages that really don't have anything to walk on safely, I think safety should be a bigger issue than someone exercising, in my opinion.
Through the chair, there's a number of different drivers when you look at those renewal programs, and aesthetics, safety, all come into play with that. But certainly if there's some specific links, I think the upcoming budget process, there's an opportunity to highlight those and to be considered through the
For renewal.
25-26 program.
Definitely. Put it on your project list for the renewals. You're going to second that, Councillor Pervin? All in favour? Thank you. Thank you. We move on to item 8, planning services, and Mr. Horton will present.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Council. Item 8.1, we have an application for reduction in infrastructure charges related to RAL 24-0011. It's a reconfig of one lot into 2 lots on land described as Lot 4 SP 117176 at 2D Royal Palm Drive, Mission Beach. So, Council, the application was approved for a 2-lot subdivision. It was initially 3 lots to start with, however, reduced to 2 lots because of flooding issues within that area. So, the infrastructure charges amount issued was $29,339.55. The applicants requested 100% reduction to do the subdivision, which is the recommendation. So, Council approved potential 100% reduction in subject to this reconfiguration. So, and all the works have to be done prior to the 25th of July 2027, Council. So, it's within the area. It's Township Zone, Greater Mission Beach Residential Choice Precinct. So it's it's sort of the end of a road network, which is sort of off when you go into Royal Palm, just on the left, sort of as you come in.
That's the one going up the hill.
You sort of, as you come in and around, it's sort of it's tucked in sort of in behind. Really to facilitate a further bigger subdivision in that area, you probably want a road, but as we know with assets and so forth, once you build a road, it comes back to council, so forth. So with this type of development, there'll be 2 lots in there. There'll be just a straight access off the end of the road network, which means it'll be all within the property. So council, I'm happy to put forward the recommendation and take any questions.
Are there any questions from the floor? Nobody's got any questions? Somebody want to move it? Councillor Pervin moved it. Councillor Bain seconded it. All in favour? Thank you, carried.
Council, item 8.2 is another application for reduction in infrastructure charges related to RAL 22-0037. It's a reconfig for 1 lot into 15 lots, so 15 lot subdivision on land known as Lot 901 on SP 332648 at Scullin Avenue. So, council, this request is been put in. It was subject to conditions that were part of the original application, which was issued on the 25th of January 23, with the infrastructure charges as a part of that. So the amount is $410,753.70. So it's a request to reduce that infrastructure cost down and taking a waiver of $0. Allowing a waiver to $0 if they do the works. So please, council, with this, you can see in the recommendation it needs to be completed by the 25th of January 2026 because it's only got that 3-year period.
Yep.
So even though the application has come in a lot later than originally was approved, those works still need to be done by that time frame. They'll tie into that infrastructure agreement if approved, and if the works aren't done, then the infrastructure charges come into play. This is the 3rd stage of the subdivision that it's done near the cemetery in Innisfail. So there was 2 initial subdivision stages, 1 and 2, that were done under the owners of Spina. So this has come in care of Urban Sync from 5 Rivers Construction, Proprietary Limited, that's going to do the subdivision work. We understand that it's been allocated to a local contractor to do this stage. On the top of that, council, we understand that there's applications currently in the system for duplex dwellings to be proposed on 10 of the 15 lots. So, council, I put forward the recommendation for that 100% reduction in infrastructure charges and those works needing to be completed by the 25th of January 2026. I'm happy to answer any questions.
more of a comment really, but this is again pretty exciting to see that these things are being opened up and people are wanting to build duplexes and such with the shortage in housing that we have at the moment. And given that I think most of the ones that have just been built are almost sold, I believe. So,
through the chair, the Elliott Road ones, I think there's probably only 1 or 2 blocks that doesn't have something on it in those 11 lots there. Through the chair, it's really good to see that this third stage is proceeding. Stage 1 went really well and went pretty quickly. Stage 2 sat there for a fair while. It's good to see that
we
stage
want to get
3.
them all filled and welcome all these people to the Cassowary coast to increase our rate numbers. That's what we want. We'll keep them coming. Councillor Purvin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, Mr. Horton, just on that, in the report there, you talk about look, for starters, this area is in an area that's already got the infrastructure in place. Sewage is there, water's there. It's just a matter of tapping into the existing. So it's getting more blocks into our underutilised assets, I'm presuming. But also there's a cost there that there's about $1.2 million as part of civil construction. So you add another $400,000 to that, which is you're bringing it up to about 1.6, and the cost of living is a major issue at the moment. So trying to keep these prices down on these blocks of land is what you want to do, what people can afford. If you start charging too much, people just aren't going to do it. It becomes unfeasible to do the project. So I think by us having this infrastructure in place and waiving these infrastructure charges is showing that we are prepared to do our part as a local council to help out the community as well.
Through the chair, definitely, and it's an understanding of our own infrastructure and what's there at the current time, and what infill we need on subdivisions that are component. Also remember, under the infrastructure regime, that any trunk infrastructure that's put in, the applicant can come back and ask for an offset to that, and apply to that. With this, we're giving the offset of the 400,000 to do the works and so forth. If they did come in and ask for that, might be only, they might only have to pay 80,000 anyway or something. It depends on how that works out. But the biggest thing is that our infrastructure's there. The road at Scullin Avenue is being extended, the drainage being done. The trunk sewer main will go in for that area. The water, all those types of things will be done as a component. They're not getting charged, so there's nothing to come back to council and ask for that. So. And then, as you said, with the block of land, it costs so much to put it on the ground. If that's not feasible, the lots don't get titled. They sit there in a large parcel, and sometimes we've had that over the years where we've had a subdivision, sit for 10 years, and have 1 or 2 blocks titled and the rest sit out of it 10 lots, So it's about confidence, and people see with subdivisions too, once you build 3 or 4 houses in there, or the rest go, and you see that all the time, might sit there and people get jittery around, only see 1 or 2, but once you get 4 or 5 and then bang, the whole lot goes. So, look, I think the waiver's working at the current time, and we see that. It'll be nice to sit down and look at Sultana's units at some stage and see how well that come out for what we provided and benefit to that development coming forward.
Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. And without disregarding the economic realities of development and how it works, and that we're trying to encourage people, the percentage reduction on these infrastructure charges rather than waiving, I hate the word waiving, but the percentage reduction around these sort of projects is important to understand, because some people come to me and they go, you're giving these developers $400,000, and that's not the reality of how we're working this. So it's income that's not coming in, but the infrastructure is already in place. We're in a priority infrastructure area. The discount on these fees, so say the 400,000 with the 15 blocks, some of them we're talking duplex or multiple residences. What would be a fair figure to put around that return with the ongoing rates coming in? 8 years, maybe 10 years?
Around 11 years.
Around 11 years, but then those rates are coming in on those blocks ad infinitum forever.
Forever,
So,
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah. So it's a really important, especially in the housing crisis, the cost of living crisis. It's a great program. I commend the officers and the councils, the previous councils and this council for keeping this sort of stuff going, because we're starting to see that sort of infrastructure that we've got being infilled, and it's only going to be a benefit to the Cassowary Coast as a whole. So great piece of work. Thank you.
Through the chair, just to add to that, the locations we've got across the region which don't have suitable infrastructure, and Port Hinchinbrook is one, and that policy, those areas are exempt. So,
Moved by Councillor Pervin, seconded by Councillor Baines. All in favour? Carried, thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Now we move on to general business. We'll go across to you, Councillor Jessup. Would you like to finish your 20 pages? Sorry, we'll give you the... Okay, do you want me to... Okay, we'll go over to you, Councillor Chewy.
I'll try not to be too long. Yes, just a couple of things. Thank you through the chair. Yesterday, councillors Millwood and Jessup and myself attended the AGM of the Tully Support Centre. Just like to acknowledge the work that our support and community centres do within the area, and the committee members that take on those roles as volunteers. Just the figures that they've talked about in their reports were quite amazing. So, and we talked about safe spaces. Their project that they would like to move forward is called Open Hearts, which is a safe space for victims and children, women and children of domestic violence. So I think all of us were quite impressed with the presentation that they showed, and it was very good. And I met with Policeman Rob on Monday, and DV is not going away, unfortunately. So it is something that we need to work towards. We can't fix it, but if we can make it better for victims, then that would be great. Also, the youth survey is out and about through our YAC group. So this is a chance for 15 to 24-year-olds to have their say on what they would like to see happening in the Cassowary Coast. I believe our community team are working to get that out to schools and things like that. So we can find out what our youth are expecting of council, or their hopes and aspirations. And for those that do go in to submit their thoughts, they could potentially win an iPad. So if you have young people in your life, please ask them to go online and have a look at that. Australia Day Award nominations close on Sunday. I've been approached by various people. You have to be nominated. You must live in the Cassowary Coast, be a resident. But if you can nominate if you used to live here and think somebody's done a great job over the time that you lived here, you can in fact still nominate them if you don't live here. Once again, there's a lucky draw for those who do take the time to nominate. It's a Yeti pack. Non-residents are not eligible, unfortunately, for the Yeti pack, but it's just an incentive to have people nominate. So that would be great if people could take the time. 17 different categories, lots of ways that you can recognise events, groups, people and young people in our community. Just a couple of things. I met with the Mission Beach Community Association Executive Committee, and they raised some points which I will then ask the CEO to respond to, if I may. So there were several items, but I think some of them were quite the conversation was there was an outcome, but just regarding the situation on Dunk and the camping on Dunk is still an issue, not just with that group, but Woolworths to library, wherever I go. So if I could have some clarity potentially, and the medical centre doctor situation at Mission Beach, if there's any news on that, because obviously people are anxious and in anticipation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor, and through the chair, Councillor, in regular communications with the Dunk Island Group. I think most people are now aware the Dunk Island Group have a general manager that's between the actual island and the mainland, and focused on the development. Council entered into a lease with the Dunk Island Group, and within that lease there was a requirement to undertake some development works, which was a bar cafe to be developed out on the Spit, and some work to the amenities within that area. And look, they had 2 years to undertake those works. I'm pleased to say that physical work commenced on Monday on the island, and we are progressing towards, I guess, that vision that council and the community have had for some time, to see genuine activation of the Spit again, and that is, 8 glamping tents on the southern side of the Spit, 4 camping sites on the northern side of the Spit, and a restaurant, cafe, bar that is available to both people that are staying on the island, but also to residents. And with that, those that have walked down at Clump Point will see that there's the Dunk Island Group has a new vessel down there moored as well, and that vessel will commence transfers over to the island. So I guess council understand that there is some community frustration around access to those camping sites. There's also some frustration from the Dunk Island Group with regard to behaviour of some people that have been utilising those camping sites. So unfortunately we've seen the amenities out on the island closed a couple of times now. I'm not talking about vandalism. Someone writing was here on the back of the toilet door. We've had toilet doors ripped off. They've had toilet bowls smashed. This is deliberate and targeted vandalism on the island. So whilst those construction works are underway, I can understand the concerns of the Dunk Island Group that whilst they have individuals based on the island, they're based at the staff facilities on the freehold portion. They're not based down there, where you've got lone workers trying to control individuals that are willing to do that sort of malicious activity. They have concerns for the safety of their staff, and there's some conversations at the moment around installation of CCTV cameras out on the island. But I guess the biggest concern is, and the Dunk Island Group working diligently with the contractor to deliver on the bar and cafe, is that if similar damage is to occur overnight to those facilities, it has the potential to significantly delay those works. We all probably can understand the complexities of a significant development like that on a island Spit. Bringing out additional materials and contractors to undertake those repairs is a concern. That said, council is in constant negotiation around providing access to the campsites. I guess there's potentially a benefit, the passive surveillance you have with 4 campsites full, where if one person is undertaking that behaviour, you've got 3 others that are probably there to either escalate that or tell someone that the behaviour that they're doing is impacting the amenities that they need to use. So that conversation is ongoing. I think with potentially with some CCTV on the Spit, that might provide more clarity for the Dunk Island Group. As it is, I think where we sat 2 years ago without a tenant, with some dilapidated buildings out there, the footings that were never finished, we are so close now to seeing that Dunk Island Spit realise the potential that it has. This is glamping, camping, bar, restaurant activities, like I said, staffed and manned to bring people back to the region and bring people back to Dunk. So I would ask community members, one, to be respectful if they are out there. The damage to the amenities not only impacts other users of that region, but it does come at a significant cost as well to repair that damage. And 2, we'll continue to advocate for access, but from council's position, there are undertaking works out there at the moment. It is quite a unique site where it's hard to monitor 24/7. We've got campers there 24/7, and they are driving ahead with the contractor to deliver the outcomes that the community have aspired to have out there for so long. And if we are able to go out there and utilise a bar and cafe in early 2025, I think that would have exceeded a number of our expectations back in 2023 when we rejected tenders for that lease and then reconsidered new tenders for that lease. So look, we'll continue to advocate, but we do understand while there's continued vandalism of the amenities out there, there is concern that that will potentially significantly impact delivery. And that they've got 2 years to deliver that project. So they do have a firm timeline they're working towards.
Thank you. I think, a lot of people do understand it's a bigger picture, but I think what is, from my conversations with people, is it's a lack of communication. That they feel there's not enough messaging going out. And there's no photographs of the vandalism. I don't know, is there photographs of works progressing? I just think if people could see what was happening, they possibly would have a greater understanding.
Yeah,
and that's not our responsibility.
Through the chair, I've got photographs of the vandalism that I've been provided. We lease that facility. It's not council's responsibility to undertake those repairs. So, and it's not council's responsibility for a private business to, we don't have the ability to dictate how they communicate. I think there are some positive signs with some of the recruitment activities they've undertaken recently, and I am aware that they acknowledge that, whilst maybe it's outside of how that group operates in other areas, that the community here are seeking more. If you jump on the website now, you can see the website has been updated, provides a little bit more clarity around delivery. And, I think like we saw with the provision of the temporary food back in 2023, this is a group that typically, under promises and over delivers. That pop-up Mexican, was there well before we had been advised that it would, and we're hopeful again with a clean run of weather and without any additional vandalism of that site that we'll again see that spit activated, and it'll be a real asset for community members as well as a real attraction for people to come back, bring Dunk back into the spotlight.
Sorry, Alan, I'm just going to jump in on that one too. And yes, it's awful to see the destruction that's happened over there, but I guess from the community's point of view, we had an agreement in place that it was going to be done, and they promised that it was going to be done, and it hasn't been done, and now it's going to take longer. So I guess they end up with this scenario in their head that these people are trying to keep locals off the island. So, that's sort of basically part of the conversation. So
yeah, and look, through the chair, it's probably no different to when we look at Port Hinchinbrook. I mean, the negative communication around the Dunk Island Group, the negative, media that gets out there about the Dunk Island spit doesn't benefit, our community. It doesn't benefit tourism in this region. I think for all of us now to focus on the fact that coming into the 2025 tourist season, we're going to have a real asset out there. I mean, it's under construction. It's like the Village Green. It's not something that's, a plan. It's not something that will fall over. They're out there, the materials are there, and they're constructing this facility. So, what the operations of that look like moving forward, whether that is another party or what that looks like is still to be ascertained. But we need to focus on the positive, which is, people should come next year, come to the Cassowary Coast. It is the most livable tropical community. And we should be bringing people and getting people excited about what 2025 on the Cassowary Coast looks like.
Yeah. So just patience. It's just patience. People have just got to have some patience, and things don't always go to plan. So
we're so close.
The other one.
And look, through the chair, look, we're bound by some confidentiality around that process, but I guess fair to say we're working on with the medical centre. Hopefully the community's aware that council took the courageous step of actually securing a lease over the old TriStar Medical Centre in Wongling Beach. Council then started a process of going out for an expression of interest to identify suitable providers that would be interested in stepping into that space. Council also, we talked about advocacy, advocated with NQPHN, the state and the federal government around the need and the real impact of not having that facility for Mission Beach had on the residents of Mission Beach, but more broadly, those residents then took spaces in Tully and in Innisfail that residents there desired and required for their own primary health care. So the federal government announced $16.4 million in Thin Markets funding, and that Thin Markets funding is about re-establishing medical practices in areas where they have been lost, and it's about looking at new and innovative ways of doing that. So the fact that the Cassowary Coast Regional Council had taken that step and had a facility and had already undertaken expression of interest allowed the Commonwealth to then undertake a direct procurement process for an operator there. So whilst I can't really say more about that, I understand that process has concluded. They have got an operator, and whilst I can't talk to that, it's imminent. I know it's a long time coming. I think the benefit for community is that it is so close to coming, and it is coming now ideally without an impact on ratepayers. The federal government, we have to be commended in stepping into this space and looking outside the box about how they provide that. There's a number of local governments that have gone down and are funding $400,000, $500,000 a year to keep a GP in their communities. This solution, by courageously stepping into the space, and Carbal is the same, will hopefully deliver an outcome that doesn't cost ratepayers, because let's face it, primary healthcare, while it's a key priority of our community, isn't a responsibility of local government. So watch this space, and I would like to think in the next couple of weeks that there will be some media out, but again, not our place to put that media out.
Councillor Jessup? Back to you. It's over to you. Sorry.
Here I go, talking about rubbish again. So I was just nearly finished my spiel before, but basically, I just want to remind people to take up the offer of the free disposal of dry waste to our transfer stations. Some of the items that are not included are old tyres, mattresses, and solar panels, and any of the items that require degassing, such as gas bottles, fridges, and air conditioners, they will attract a fee. So any of the dry waste you can pop in there for free. It normally would cost anything up to $24 to do this any other weekend. So Friday the 8th to Monday the 11th is the next free session, and so that's not this weekend coming, the one after. And I urge residents to start clearing their properties, pack their survival kits, and have a plan for this cyclone season. Check out Council's website for any further information for disaster-related help, especially those that are new to the area. And that's pretty much it. We don't know what Mother Nature's going to give us, so we'll be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general business? No? Councillor Baines?
Well, far be it from me. You going to talk to the conference?
No, you can.
Okay.
All good.
Well, thank you, Chair. I will say I've councillors, several around the table, attended the LGAQ conference, and I'll say it was an excellent conference this year. It was a great piece of advocacy work, and the CEO's already spoken to the Mayor, speaking on a couple of panels. There was great connections with the other local governments and how that worked. So it was another good piece of work down there. I had the opportunity, I've spoken to the Reef Guardian Council stuff quickly. That rolled into the 2 days post the Local Government Association conference. It was amazing seeing the 47 different projects that the 19 member councils under this Reef Guardian Council funding are working with. One of our directors was in attendance. as well, and I know that Mr. McNamara, I can use Mr. McNamara, was in attendance. He really enjoyed the interaction and the conversations and looking at how things are done. So it was a great piece of work. I will say that funding ends June 26 next year. So conversations and lobbying as an individual and as a group have already started. So again, I thank the councillors earlier for that support, but I will need that continued support walking into the future. One more item, if I may. Remembrance Day is coming up, Monday the 11th of the 11th. There are poppy drives being run by the local RSLs within our region. Please go out and purchase a poppy. So 11 a.m. on Monday the 11th. Just take the opportunity to take a minute's silence, stop what you're doing, just take a minute, 1 minute, and that goes towards the hundreds of thousands of people that have served within the Australian Defence Force for the past 123 years since the Australian Defence Force was formed in 1901. So please take the time. If you can get along to one of your RSLs or attend a function, please do. Thank you for your support.
Oh, I am sorry. Through the chair. Sorry, I had nothing prepared, and then it all happened. We have all talked about the upgrade at the Mission Beach Town Centre. Just please remind everybody that the Shop Mission Beach project is happening. If you do go, you only have to spend $5 in any of the participating shops. Scan the QR code, and you could go in the draw to win a $100 voucher, 2 $50 vouchers weekly. I think people may not be aware of it. Businesses are possibly busy and don't have time to talk to it. So, ask the question. If you're spending money in the shop, look for the QR code on the counter or the sign in the window. Scan, enter your details, and you have the chance to spend more money at the Mission Beach Town Centre. So, thank you for that.
Councillor Pervin, you've got no general business. So I'll talk to the LGAQ as well. Yes, I did speak on a few panels, and I will speak on a few more. I'm happy to speak on the panels on behalf of Cassowary Coast Regional Council, because it really does put us on the map, I feel, and gets in the ears of those who we need to, so that we are not forgotten, and I'll continue that. I believe the contractors have started the post-Jasper works on our roads. Just wondering how that's progressing, and given we're almost headed into the next disaster season, as we hate to even mention that, but and there's been a bit of angst around protocols relating to Panama TR4, I believe. I just got an update on that at all?
Yeah, look, through the chair, I think we've got to commend the team on their recommendation for the project managers for this project. Shepherd's Service have a system where we can log in at any point and actually have a look at works being undertaken and works complete. If I'm looking at that at the moment, out of an approved value on there of $35 million, $2.237 million has already been completed. So I think our community will see a number of contractors across the region. So all contracts have been executed, and contractors are starting across each of the 10 zones that those works were allocated to. I guess this program will see more works on our roads than you would typically see. I think we talked about the volume of work being effectively 10 years worth of funded work in a fairly condensed sort of 6-month period. So we'd certainly encourage those road users to be patient, to stay safe, and to be aware that there are a number of works occurring right across the region at the moment. The other question around what is happening at the moment with regard to I guess with any works that council do, council is very well aware of biosecurity, and certainly particularly the threat that Panama TR4 poses to our primary producers, particularly the banana industry here. So there are a number of initiatives underway at the moment, and Shepherd Services again have got typical protocols that council would use in place. So I would encourage anyone that that does have concerns to certainly reach out to council, and we can put them in contact, or if they are aware of one of the contractors that we've got from Shepherd Services out there, I'd certainly encourage them to have a chat to those contractors. But certainly, our own protocols and those that we provide, no single contractor or subcontractor has been allocated works between quarantine zones. So we did break the region into 10 zones to ensure that the work was broken up and we didn't have machinery moving between some of those zones. Certainly no works have been programmed on any quarantine properties to try and sustain that as well, and any property access across the project is supported by and signed and agreed by owners for land access. So if we are accessing a property, the landowner will certainly know and have to consent and agree to that. Like normal, all equipment mobilised to site are accompanied with a weed and seed declaration. All spoil of any kind, unless contaminated, is being disposed of or stockpiled at an agreed location within the immediate area of its origin. We're not taking material and stockpiling it across regions. And all works conducted on the public access, so within the gazetted road corridors and not on private property. So again, there are the same protocols that council would put in place imposed on our contractors. There's a huge number of local subcontractors that have been engaged by these contractors due to the volume of work that's out there, and we'll continue to make sure that those local subcontractors are aware of those protocols as well. But again, if people do have concerns, please touch base with council and we can provide contact details for the Shepherd Service project managers.
So do we have line of sight when the drain cleaning at Silkwood and Marillion will be progressing, as some of the residents are starting to get a little bit stressed about that?
I think I answered that question for Councillor Jessup earlier, but so just to reiterate, the River Trust had a meeting yesterday. The River Trust is in negotiations with CCRC because the funds are managed by CCRC. We're just agreeing on scopes and what's going to happen. Contractors are available, but they won't be available for a couple of weeks. So we're looking at the end, late November, or fourth quarter of November and early December, getting the works done. And we are doing our utmost to get the works done before the next big rains in this season. So we are working on that project as we speak.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there some update on Bowen Street?
Through the chair, the works down on Bowen Street as far as the service identification and relocation were held up for a period, waiting for approval from QR to provide a permit to work on their land, and I understand that those have now been issued, so those preliminary works will continue, which would make way for council's consideration moving forward to fund the upgrade. But certainly, Telstra, NBN and other services in that region, due to the scope of the project, with some on-site sumps and drainage, as well as the increasing width in that road, have been required.
So we would progress to look for funding at this time, or?
Look, through the chair, the funding this year is primarily for service location and relocation. Absolutely. That could either be funded through muni funds or probably at the moment, looking at some of the grant opportunities that are out there, there probably aren't a significant number. The local government grant subsidy program, which was mentioned earlier today, has closed. Council had a number of applications in for that, but that's progressed now into round 2. The federal funding Growing Regions program is probably not a project that would be eligible for, but council is consistently new opportunities arise every day, as we've seen with the Active Transport Network program that's come out today.
Okay, Councillor Purven.
Sorry, one item that tweaked in my head. Mr. Graffin, you could probably answer this one. The Calendar Park drainage upgrades. I believe we're very close for completion. I know Mr. Goodman knows all about it, but just rather than me get him up, could you just quickly fill us in?
Through the chair, he does love coming up, and I'm sure he. But I think if you're looking for some clarity around that, while Mr. Goodman comes up, I'd just like to congratulate the team on the work that they did, actually investing time into a study to identify the best time of year to fit these works, and the timing to actually get to tender and get this contract awarded. I think that investment up front, we all saw some of the challenges that project has I guess the outcome of that project has been, we've had to monitor water levels, and it's a significant drainage, but I think the work that went into identifying the timing of that work, and the program, and fitting that into the time that we would have the least impact on the community, should be commended, because it's been a project that really has been delivered in a streamlined way, between our team and the contractor. So well done.
Over to you.
Through the chair. Thanks for the opportunity. I was wondering whether I was going to get left out today. I am pleased with the progress of this project, and reinforce those comments of Mr. Graffin, as while we acknowledge there's been some impact to the community, the time and the priorities into the time of year for getting this project done has allowed us to do that with the least impact that we could to the community. We're at a we're at a good stage of the project. I know those that are impacted continue to be impacted by the elevated water levels associated with the bund that we have in to restrict flow through that Cunda Park drain. Are keen to see that bund removed. We're at the stage now where the works would allow the that removal of that bund. The contractors is slightly delayed with the access to subcontractors associated with sheet piling at the end of the outlet of where it goes into the river. So the latest advice is we expect that subcontractor to be on site on the 5th of November, and the removal of that bund to occur on the 6th. Now, if there was a situation arose of a imminent significant weather event, we're have the capacity to remove that bund immediately, but it will have some impact to the contractor, and it does have associated escalated safety issues with removing that bund early. So that's the current plan.
Thank you.
That's great news, because following on from that is the tilapia comp coming up soon, and as we all know, that was put off because of the high water levels that were in the lake. So yeah, looking forward to that water subsiding and see some mudcod coming out into the river and the barra there.
Thank you. Councillor Jessup, you got some more?
Yeah, I just want to take us back a little step to the Australia Day Awards and the Tully 100. So if you're thinking of nominating someone, think back to a time when you were happy and you had pride in your town, and there's a heap of groups or individuals that certainly could end up with a nomination. So yeah, people get out there and nominate for who you want. Thank you.
You can nominate yourself if you like. No, I mean, people out there can actually nominate themselves if they think they're worthy of the award. So, yeah. Yep. Okay. Any more general business? No, we're all done with our general business. Very good. We now go to move into a closed session. This meeting will now be closed to the public in accordance with section 254J13 legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, and negotiations relating to commercial matters of the local government, to consider the following confidential reports. Item 10.1, quarterly debtors and outstanding rates and charges report, and 10.2, contract CCW 000272, package of 8 water main replacements in Innisfail. So we'll just...
Happy to move to close the
happy to move
meeting.
it. Happy to second it. All in favour? Thank you. Moved by councillor Baines, seconded by councillor Chewy. All in favour? Thank you. I will hand over to Ms Vick for her report.
Thank you. This report is in regards to...
Thanks, Michael. Quarterly debtors and outstanding rates and charges report is presented for council information regarding the status of our rates and charges and sundry debtors to the 30th of September. An update regarding legal action was also provided. The summary includes our current outstanding rates to the 30th of September is 11.65% with a comparative to this time last year of 11.37%. The amount currently outstanding equates to 2,205 rate files, totaling just over 10.7 million. We have 231 files with council's debt collection agencies, totaling 751,000. We have 617 payment arrangements with a combined total of just over $1.82 million. Sorry, $1,082,000. There are 132 sundry debt files with debit balances totaling just over 1.4 million and 7 sundry debt files with council's debt collection agency totaling just over 16,000. The recommendation is that the report be received and noted. Councillor Pervin, you're moving it? Seconded by councillor Baines. All those in favour of receiving the report? Thank you. Carried. Thank you. We welcome item 10.2.
Afternoon, Madam
Good
Mayor,
afternoon.
CEO, councillors. The purpose of this report is for council to consider submitted tenders and award contract CCW 000272, package of 8 water main replacements in this file. This project will see the supply installation of approximately 1,615 metres of 150mm ductile iron concrete line pipework and approximately 1,075 metres of microcellular polyvinyl chloride pipework with associated property services, hydrants and valves. It is proposed to award this lump sum contract to Wilsey Enterprises Proprietary Limited, trading as Celtic Construction Utility Services, who submitted the highest scoring tender submission following the assessment process. The recommendation is that Council 1 accept the lump sum tender for contract CCW 000272, package of 8 water main replacements in this file, submitted by Wilsey Enterprises Proprietary Limited, trading as Celtic Construction Utility Services. 2. In accordance with the Local Government Act 2009, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a contract, negotiate, finalise and execute any and all matters associated with or in relation to the contract, subject to Council's existing procurement policies and practices. And 3, note the tendered amount from Wilsey Enterprises Proprietary Limited, trading as Celtic Construction Utility Service for contract CCW 000272 is $2,219,406.57 exclusive of GST.
Thank you, Mr Page.
You're welcome.
Councillor Pervin's moving it. Councillor Chewy.
Thank you. Mr Page, this is under the expected quote total. Sorry, my brain's not
Budget.
working.
Yeah.
Budget, that's
For
the word I'm
chair,
looking for, yes.
We have a budget of, this is under the budget
Yes.
value we had, yes.
Yeah, so that's a great outcome.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Happy to second it as well, thank you.
Seconded. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. And just before we close our meeting, I've got one little bit of community service. We have currently a survey out our transfer station, so I encourage everybody to go online at your say at cassowarycoast.qld.gov.au and have your say on the survey in relation to our transfer stations. And after that, thank you everybody for the meeting today, and see you later. Good afternoon.